This is an hour-long Demon Slayer video, basically a compilation of all my what-if scenarios merged into one so you can just chill, fall asleep, or play a game while listening. What if Kokushibo and Yoriichi teamed up to fight Muzan? Would they be able to take him down? So you guys wanted to see what if Yoriichi became a demon and Kokushibo stayed human, but I was thinking, what if they were both still human and Yoriichi was still alive? But in the current era of Demon Slayer, this is easily one of my favorite what-ifs. So let's jump right into it. We've got a prime Yoriichi, fully skilled in breathing techniques, who's already trained all the Hashira, awakened the Demon Slayer mark, and even mastered the transparent world. Then there's Kokushibo, still human, with moon breathing and the Demon Slayer mark. The only difference? He never unlocked the transparent world. Let me know if you guys want the full backstory of Kokushibo and Yoriichi next. Let's just say, out of nowhere, both Yoriichi and Kokushibo get teleported into the current era, right as Tanjiro begins his journey and is training with Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. They get teleported into the middle of the woods, completely confused about where they are or what just happened. As they wander through the forest, they stumble upon a small shed. It's Urokodaki's place. That's where they meet Tanjiro and the former water Hashira himself, Sakonji Urokodaki. When they meet Urokodaki, something about him instantly reminds Yoriichi of the water Hashira from his own era. Curious, Yoriichi asks, "Where did you get that robe?" and begins questioning him. Then it hits him. Urokodaki uses water breathing. Yoriichi remembers helping the very first water Hashira create that style. After some conversation, everything clicks. They've somehow traveled through time. This is the future. And worst of all, Muzan is still alive. Yoriichi also notices something familiar about Tanjiro. He looks just like an old friend from the Sengoku era. That friend was the very person Yoriichi once entrusted with the Hinokami Kagura. Realizing this, Yoriichi decides to teach Tanjiro how to truly master it. But we want Kokushibo to stay good in this timeline. So let's say Tanjiro ends up having a meaningful conversation with him. Being as empathetic as he is, Tanjiro senses the jealousy and frustration coming from Kokushibo, just like he once sensed the hidden anger in Shinobu. They talk it out, and for the first time, Kokushibo truly lets go of that jealousy. He accepts that Yoriichi might always be stronger, and for once, he's okay with that. There's no need to become a demon. Final selection goes way differently this time. Tanjiro absolutely dominates. Thanks to his intense training with Yoriichi, he now understands sun breathing on a whole new level. He breezes through the exam with barely any struggle, even taking down the hand demon with ease. After passing, Tanjiro, Yoriichi, and Kokushibo make their way to the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters. That's where they meet the Ubuyashiki family. After meeting with the Ubuyashiki family, Yoriichi and Kokushibo are officially appointed as the two new Hashira, the sun-breathing Hashira and the moon-breathing Hashira. With their arrival, the entire Demon Slayer Corps gets a massive upgrade. All the current Hashira begin to level up under their guidance. Yoriichi, being even stronger than Gyomei, becomes the new gold standard, and Kokushibo, now fully human and on par with Gyomei, proves to be just as valuable. Together, they start training the other Hashira to fight more efficiently, pushing the Corps to a level it's never reached before. Through intense training with Yoriichi and mastering sun breathing, Tanjiro eventually learns how to enter the flawless state, a perfected form of battle focus that Yoriichi excels at. With time, Tanjiro not only taps into it, but nearly matches Yoriichi's control over it. He also begins to grasp the basics of the transparent world, giving him a huge edge in combat. Tanjiro's growth is no longer just impressive. Now things start to get really interesting. Rengoku's on the move to board the Mugen train. Yoriichi, curious about the current state of the Flame Hashira, decides to join him. He wants to understand how the legacy of flame breathing has changed over the generations. So Tanjiro, Yoriichi, and Rengoku all head out together for the Mugen train mission. Once they board the Mugen train, Tanjiro and Rengoku take charge of protecting the passengers, sweeping through the train car by car. Meanwhile, Yoriichi heads straight for the source of the threat. Before Enmu, Lower Moon 1, can even begin his dream manipulation, Yoriichi decapitates him in an instant. No struggle, no delay. With Enmu gone, the entire Lower Moon threat is erased. Thanks to Yoriichi's overwhelming power, the entire situation is handled flawlessly. Enmu is eliminated before causing any damage, so the train never derails, and no one gets hurt. Not a single passenger. With the threat neutralized so quickly, Akaza never even shows up. The tragedy that once defined the Mugen train arc is completely avoided. This time, everyone makes it home. Now that all the Hashira are still alive, we move into the Entertainment District arc. Tengen Uzui leads the who's going with Tengen? We're always going to include the Tanjiro trio, Inosuke and Zenitsu. And let's put Yoriichi into the mix. So we've got Yoriichi, Tengen, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro. Now, instead of them dressing up as girls, they instantly know where the demon is. Tengen brings them to the houses, and Yoriichi senses the demon's presence right away. Without hesitation, Yoriichi flies to one of the houses and quickly cuts off Daki's head, and then turns his attention to Gyutaro. Gyutaro, knowing he can't beat Yoriichi, takes Daki and slips into the night, trying to escape. He barely manages to get away. At this point, Gyutaro only cares about surviving and protecting his sister, and the way he gets away is by slicing through buildings and injuring a bunch of civilians, forcing Yoriichi to stop and protect them. Now that the Entertainment District arc is over, they return to the Demon Slayer core. Yoriichi is a bit upset with himself for letting Upper Moon 6 escape, but part of him knows he did the right thing by protecting the civilians. Tengen, on the other hand, is mad at himself for not being fast enough to keep up with Yoriichi or Upper Moon 6. He wishes he was quicker, so he could have helped Yoriichi in the fight. Now, we move on to the Swordsmith Village arc, where we meet Muichiro and Mitsuri. In this timeline, Tanjiro doesn't go to the Swordsmith Village because he never chipped or broke his sword. Instead, Kokushibo goes in his place, not just to help, but because he wants to meet Muichiro, a distant relative of his own bloodline. Kokushibo helps Muichiro train in the village while Muichiro waits for his new sword. They talk about their shared bloodline, and during that time, Kokushibo reflects deeply. He admits he wishes he could go back in time to make things right with his family, to not abandon them, just to become stronger than Yoriichi. He now realizes that chasing power out of jealousy was pointless, and that he should have been proud to have a brother like Yoriichi. Upper Moon 4 and Upper Moon 5 arrive at the village. Kokushibo notices them immediately and slices off Upper Moon 4's head before he can do anything. However, Upper Moon 4 splits into his emotion clones like usual. Muichiro never gets blasted away in this timeline, so he stays and fights alongside Kokushibo against the clones. Mitsuri rushes back to the village and takes on Upper Moon 5. She teams up with Genya for the fight, and this one turns out to be a tough battle for both of them. Then we cut back to Kokushibo and Muichiro fighting Upper Moon 4, with Muichiro being one of the strongest Hashira, and Kokushibo being as strong as Gyomei. They managed to finish the fight much faster than in the original timeline. They both come out with some serious wounds, but nothing fatal, and the battle ends way earlier than it originally did. Then, we switch back to Mitsuri and Genya fighting Upper Moon 5. Mitsuri gets trapped in one of those water prism bubbles, and Genya is doing his best to break her out while holding off Upper Moon 5. Just in time, Kokushibo and Muichiro arrive and team up with them. Together, they manage to defeat Upper Moon 5. Now, after the Swordsmith Village arc and the defeat of most of the Upper Moons, the village doesn't suffer much damage, so they decide to keep it mostly the same. However, they still move operations to a new location just to be safe. The Hashira training arc never happens in this timeline, since they already know about the Demon Slayer mark, the transparent world, and everything else they would have trained for. After the defeat of the two Upper Moon demons in the Swordsmith Village arc, Ubuyashiki puts his plan into motion, teleporting everyone into the Infinity Castle. And just like that, we enter the Infinity Castle arc. Now with Yoriichi, Kokushibo, and an even stronger Tanjiro fully mastered in sun breathing, plus all the extra help, they start wiping out the Infinity Castle. For this timeline, Yoriichi and Kokushibo will face off against a brand new Upper Moon one, created to replace Kokushibo from the original timeline. You guys can name him whatever you want. For now, I'll just call him Upper Moon 1. Yoriichi and Kokushibo make easy work of the new Upper Moon 1. Yoriichi is basically a cheat code in the Demon Slayer universe. He can wipe out almost anyone. The only one who might actually stand a chance against him is Demon King Tanjiro. After their fight with Upper Moon 1, the group gets split up as the castle shifts. Kokushibo ends up facing Doma alongside Shinobu, while Yoriichi goes up against Upper Moon 6. Tanjiro, Gyu, and let's say Gyomei team up to face Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Now let's start with Upper Moon 2, because this is probably the longest fight in the arc. Kokushibo and Shinobu begin fighting Doma, and by this point, Kokushibo already knows about her plan. He can sense it, but he doesn't allow her to sacrifice herself. Kokushibo puts up a serious fight and gives Doma a hard time, but he still isn't powerful enough to finish him off alone. Then suddenly, someone crashes through the wall. It's Sanemi, the Wind Hashira. Now that Sanemi has joined the fight against Doma, Upper Moon 2, their chances increase drastically. Shinobu no longer thinks about her original plan from the main timeline. This time, she believes she can take him down with pure strength and revenge alone. With Kokushibo, Shinobu, and Sanemi all attacking together, Doma is completely overwhelmed. He can't keep up with 3 Hashira at once, and they end up killing him far more easily than in the original timeline. If you guys are wondering where the other Hashira are, like Rengoku Rengoku and Obanai, they're off fighting lower moon demons, trying to track down any upper moons, but the Infinity Castle won't allow it, since most of the upper moons are already engaged in battle with other demon slayers. And now we shift back to Upper Moon 3, Akaza, facing off against Tanjiro, Giyu, and Gyomei. In this timeline, Giyu doesn't end up seriously injured during the fight with Akaza. With Gyomei by his side, the fight is much more balanced. The final blow still comes from Tanjiro, who enters the selfless state, a state where he completely erases his killing intent, making it impossible for Akaza to sense his attacks. That's how Akaza is finally defeated. Now we move on to the fight between Yoriichi and Upper Moon 6. Upper Moon 6 gets completely demolished by Yoriichi. He's just way too strong for anyone in the verse to handle. The Hashira help Yushiro take control of the Infinity Castle, just like in the original timeline. Now we get Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, and it plays out just like it did in the original series. Now we move on to Muzan. At first, he wasn't paying attention, too focused on trying to dissolve the poison he'd been injected with. Most of the Hashira had already surrounded him by the time he realized Yoriichi was in Tanjiro's era. In a panic, Muzan kills the demon controlling the Infinity Castle, causing all the demon slayers to be transported out. But now they all regroup to face Muzan together. Muzan's shocked, thinking to himself, how is Yoriichi here? I saw you 500 years ago. How are you still alive? Are you a demon? Muzan tries to split into 1,500 pieces like he did before, but this time, it doesn't work. He's weakened by the drugs, and with Yoriichi, Kokushibo, the rest of the Hashira, and Tanjiro all attacking together, they finally destroy Muzan for good. Thanks to Tamayo's drug keeping, Muzan weakened, and preventing him from splitting apart, they're able to defeat him, with no one dying and fewer people needing to awaken the Demon Slayer mark. Since barely any Hashira needed to awaken the Demon Slayer mark, they all survive, leading to way more happy ending. This is personally one of my favorite what-ifs, because it really shows what could have been. Shinobu and Giyu finally get to be together and live a peaceful life, something that felt impossible in the original timeline. It always felt tragic how they never truly got to talk. Then we have Obanai and Mitsuri's love story, which finally plays out fully. They become a happy couple and live the peaceful life they always deserve. Muichiro also learns more about his ancestors, and without the burden of the Demon Slayer mark, he's able to live a full life. Since he was the last of his bloodline, this time, it doesn't end with him. His family line continues on, and he finally gets the piece that was stolen from him in the original timeline. What if Tanjiro had the potential of Yoriichi? I did multiple timelines for this, and this is the best one I could come up with. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Now let's get right into it. The only thing that's going to change at the start is that Tanjiro just shows signs of more potential, like chopping wood and stuff, but his family still dies. He's over there selling coal, not protecting his family. You guys have watched Demon Slayer before. You know how it goes. So the beginning is basically the same, except when he reaches the training with Sakonji. Now, when he's training with a sword, remember this is Tanjiro with Yoriichi's potential. So let's just go back to Yoriichi's backstory. So he actually got cast out by his family. I'm not going too much into depth with this, but he picked up a sword for the first time, defeated a skilled samurai, and then created sun breathing, which is the most powerful first style in the entire series. So Sakonji Urokodaki starts training him, and he quickly becomes super skilled with a sword. Since this is Tanjiro with Yoriichi's potential, he's basically already a natural swordsman. Then he tried to teach him water breathing, but it wasn't helping Tanjiro at all because he didn't feel comfortable with it. So he started doing something he learned from his dad's dance. Now he's doing sun breathing. It doesn't matter as long as it's a breathing technique. Sakonji Urokodaki doesn't really care what you use. He just wants you to feel comfortable. You don't have to use water breathing. Mitsuri was training under Rengoku, the love Hashira. She tried to learn flame breathing, but it just didn't suit her. So that's why she created her own version called love breathing. Now, with Tanjiro having Yoriichi's potential, he's super strong, so he goes to the final selection and kills all the demons. Even that weird one with 20 hands and all that stuff, he kills them all super easily because he's basically like a mini Yoriichi. Then after that, he fights most of the other demons in season 1 and meets the Tanjiro trio, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu. He defeats all the demons in season 1 very easily, even that drum demon who used to be a lower moon. And now, let's get to the part where Tanjiro meets all the Hashira and what goes down with Sanemi. But anyway, we get to the Mugen train arc. And now they all go on the train, fall asleep, and then wake up. Rengoku covers half the train with Zenitsu, while Inosuke and Tanjiro goes up to kill Lower Moon 1. They do it super quickly because Tanjiro is basically Yoriichi. Okay, I just looked it up. Yoriichi was Hashira level when he was around 6 to 8 years old, so Tanjiro is definitely Hashira level around this point too. It said that Yoriichi was basically a bit above Hashira level, so Tanjiro is going to be a huge help against Upper Moon 3. With that, they might actually be able to beat him. Now, this is Tanjiro mixed with Yoriichi's potential, so he's still very powerful. I think we should give him the Demon Slayer mark in this fight since it's against an Upper Moon demon, and Akaza is one of the most powerful demons in the entire series. Rengoku notices how strong Tanjiro has become, and together they fight Upper Moon 3. Akaza starts getting flashbacks of Yoriichi because Tanjiro looks so much like him now, especially since Akaza has never faced someone using sun breathing. He's actually getting overwhelmed. In this timeline, I'm pretty sure they would either decapitate him or he'd die from sunlight. So Akaza is probably going to die in this scenario. Tanjiro finally cuts off Upper Moon 3's head, and now they're all sitting there calmly after the fight. But suddenly, Akaza starts charging at them, regenerating his head. Tanjiro barely dodges it and starts fighting alongside Rengoku. Now Akaza sees the sunlight coming and tries to escape into the woods just like in the original timeline, but this time, Rengoku and Tanjiro are too fast for him. They hold him down until the sunlight hits him, turning him to ash. And now, nobody is really hurt because Tanjiro is super strong. So in this timeline, no one's injured. Rengoku is alive and Upper Moon 3 is dead. But when Akaza's head was chopped off, Muzan was watching through his eyes. He sees Tanjiro, a boy who looks just like Yoriichi and is strong enough to defeat an Upper Moon 3 demon. And now, Tanjiro is on Muzan's radar. Go back to the Demon Slayers. Now they arrived at the corpse, just hide out. And they were talking to the other Demon Slayers in Rengoku, was telling them how it was to fight a Upper Moon, and they can regenerate their heads. I know, the Entertainment District arc is next. Tanjiro is training even harder now and has gotten super strong. There's even talk about him becoming a Hashira since he killed Upper Moon 3 with Rengoku's help. Plus, you can tell he's as strong, maybe even stronger, than some of the Hashira. Okay, everything happens the same, but when Tanjiro faces Daki, now he's stronger with sun breathing. You remember when Tengen just nonchalantly sliced her head off? Well, that's what Tanjiro does this time. Then the real Upper 6 Gyutaro appears. Tanjiro holds his own against him and almost defeats him. Daki is mainly holding Gyutaro back from attacking Tanjiro, but then Tengen arrives, and together they quickly take Gyutaro down, defeating the Upper 6 for good. Well, in that fight, Tengen unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, and Tanjiro unlocks the Transparent World. They finish the fight pretty easily. Tengen doesn't lose his arm and remains active in the Demon Slayer core. When they all get back, Tengen tells the other Hashira that the Upper Moon 6 didn't regenerate, so maybe only the even higher ranked demons have that ability. Somehow, Tanjiro still chips his sword because he was caught off guard when the demon attacked them. They head to the Swordsmith Village arc, which goes similarly to the original timeline, but with some changes when the demons arrive. Now, Upper Moon 4, the demon with all the different personalities, gets absolutely destroyed by Tanjiro, Muichiro, Genya, and Nezuko. Upper Moon 4 gets flashes of Yoriichi's memories right before Tanjiro cuts off his head, and they absolutely destroy Upper Moon 4. Now, Mitsuri goes up against Upper Moon 5. The town gets less destroyed as Muichiro unlocks his Demon Slayer mark during the fight. They hear Mitsuri needing help against Upper Moon 5, so Tanjiro goes to assist her, and together they actually destroy Upper Moon 5. Now we get to the Hashira training arc. Tanjiro is already basically Hashira level, so he doesn't really need the training. Instead, he helps teach the others about unlocking the Demon Slayer mark and accessing the Transparent World. Everything at the end of the Hashira training arc happens just like in the original timeline. The leader dies, and everyone gets pulled into the Infinity Castle. The biggest change in this timeline is that Tanjiro is essentially Yoriichi in his prime. Because of that, he can now face any Upper Moon alone and win, something that was impossible in the original timeline. So at this point, the only real Upper Moons left are Upper 1 and Upper 2. The rest are just the fake Upper 6 and the fake Upper 4 demons. Now Tanjiro goes to face Upper Moon 2 with Muichiro and Genya, but because of Tanjiro's power, they end up absolutely destroying Upper Moon 2. In this timeline, Muichiro doesn't die. Then they go to fight Upper Moon 1, and this time, they actually defeat him. Tanjiro is basically like Yoriichi, and they also have around 20 other Hashira there to help. Now we reach the final arc with Muzan, and this time, he gets absolutely destroyed by Tanjiro and the other Demon Slayers. The Demon Slayer core is so strong now that most of them don't even need to unlock their Demon Slayer marks, so there's no reason to kill them off like in the original timeline. Tanjiro doesn't become a demon, and since he has Yoriichi's potential, he won't die from the Demon Slayer mark at 25. Instead, he lives a long life, possibly into his 80s or 90s. That means Shinobu is still alive, and most of the Hashira are too, so we get a true happy ending. Got it. Here's your sentence polished up. My favorite part is that Muichiro is still alive in this timeline, because in the original timeline, he died when he was only 14. My second favorites are Mitsuri Kanroji and Obanai Iguro. Mitsuri and Obanai end up happily married and live out their years since they never got the Demon Slayer mark. Also, Gyomei is still alive in this timeline, so what if Tanjiro got turned into a demon? So I created two different timelines. One where Tanjiro turns evil, and another where he stays good and travels with Nezuko. But I decided to go with evil Tanjiro, because let's be honest, it's darker, more intense, and way more entertaining. Let me know in the comments if you want me to drop the good Tanjiro version too. So, in this timeline, we have to make sure that Nezuko leaves the house, and Tanjiro is still in the house. So, let's just say that Tanjiro broke his leg or broke his arm while doing some activities, and so Nezuko has to go sell the coal, since she's one of the oldest. Nezuko doesn't return home, and Muzan arrives, injecting his blood into the Kamado family to see if any of them can survive and become demons. At first, he thinks none of them made it, but then Tanjiro starts turning into a demon. He senses that faint heartbeat, and Tanjiro begins rampaging, becoming a demon. After Tanjiro finally becomes a demon, Muzan asks him, "Where is the blue spider lily?" Tanjiro replies, "I don't know, Lord Muzan." Muzan then searches through all of Tanjiro's memories and catches a glimpse of the blue spider lily, something his mother once showed him. Muzan gets furious, realizing he was so close to finding it, but now he can't reach it because the flower only blooms in sunlight, and only for 3 days a year. Now, while he's looking through Tanjiro's memories, he sees the Hinokami dance that his dad was doing, and Tanjiro trying to learn it. He recognizes it as sun breathing, and Muzan would never forget that. After recognizing the Hinokami dance, Muzan realizes this is the family Yoriichi passed down his techniques to. He believes Tanjiro might be able to conquer the sun because of sun breathing. So he takes Tanjiro back to the Infinity Castle, begins training him, injects him with more blood, and feeds him more humans. But there's a problem. Tanjiro is naturally kind. He refuses to eat humans at first. Just like Akaza refuses to eat women due to his lingering human morals, Tanjiro still clings to pieces of his humanity. But Muzan doesn't care. He forces Tanjiro to consume humans and begins erasing most of his memories, because Tanjiro, at his core, is a kind soul. But Muzan is determined to turn him into a killer. Nezuko returns home to find her whole family massacred. Just then, Giyu appears and helps her escape the scene. Despite the tragedy and seeing no sign of Tanjiro anywhere, Nezuko still holds on to hope that he's alive somewhere out there. After burying her parents, Nezuko begins training with Urokodaki. After learning water breathing, Nezuko struggles when facing the same demons Tanjiro fought in the original timeline. Without a demon by her side, she misses some of the clutch moments that Tanjiro pulled off in Season 1. As a result, she has a harder time surviving. She might even be a bit weaker, not because she's a girl, but because she's fighting alone and carrying all the weight herself. Now, Nezuko meets Inosuke and Zenitsu. Zenitsu keeps chasing after her because he likes her, and Inosuke keeps getting her name wrong, which annoys her even more. But eventually, she and Inosuke team up to defeat the drum demon. Now let's get into the fight with Rui. Inosuke and Nezuko develop the same kind of chemistry that Tanjiro and Inosuke had in the original timeline, and together, they defeat all the demons leading up to Rui. But when Nezuko faces Rui, she struggles badly, pushed to the brink of death until he shows up. My emo boy Giyu shows up and nonchalantly slices Rui's head off like it was nothing, then saves Nezuko without breaking a sweat. And this time, Giyu and Shinobu don't get into that big fight, because there's no good demon now. We cut back to Tanjiro. Now we see Tanjiro as Upper Moon 6. He easily defeats Gyutaro and Daki. He's incredibly strong, able to regenerate in the blink of an eye. Now his blood demon art is really hard to figure out, because in the original timeline, when he briefly became a demon, we never actually saw it. So in this timeline, let's say it's similar to Nezuko's, but instead of pink flames, his are dark red. As Tanjiro continues to level up, he starts to regain some of his breathing techniques. So let's say Muzan gives him a sword, and now he can mix his demon powers with sun breathing. The result is even more powerful. Just like how Kokushibo uses moon breathing with his blood demon art, creating crescent-shaped slashes everywhere, Tanjiro's version creates actual flames swirling around his blade every time he uses a form. Now here's a secret a lot of people don't know, so if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead. The creator of Demon Slayer confirmed that the fire, water, and other elements you see with breathing techniques are just visual effects. They don't actually exist in the world of the story. Now we're at the end of Season 1. In the original timeline, Tanjiro met all the Hashira, but this time, it's Nezuko. She makes a much stronger impression by actually talking with them. Nezuko becomes becomes a Tsuguko of the love Hashira Mitsuri. Mitsuri sees herself in Nezuko and takes her under her wing. Other Demon Slayer creators might give Nezuko sun breathing, but that's not how it works. Nezuko never did the dance. She doesn't know it. She only saw it once, so she wouldn't be able to use sun breathing. Now, instead of water breathing, I'd give Nezuko love breathing. First of all, it's just a really cool style to give her. And second, even though she can't use sun breathing, she could still use flame breathing, and love breathing is just a different form of that. Now let's go into the Mugen train arc. In this version, Nezuko isn't part of it. She's off training with Mitsuri, so Rengoku is alone and ends up dying to Akaza, just like in the original timeline. Now, when Tanjiro joins the Upper Moon ranks, all the other Upper Moons are there to witness it. During the meeting, Gyoko, Upper Moon 5, claims he knows where the Swordsmith village is. So Muzan sends Gyoko, Upper Moon 5, and says, "Let's test your abilities now against real demon slayers." Then he turns to Tanjiro and commands him to go as well. Now they all show up at the Swordsmith village, but the only ones there are Mitsuri, Muichiro, Nezuko, and Genya. Nezuko doesn't have the demon slayer mark since she doesn't use sun breathing. Nezuko has only been training in love breathing for a couple of months now. Tanjiro is the first to show up because Upper Moon 5, Gyoko, sneaks in through his vases. In the original timeline, Mitsuri was kind of far from the village during the attack, but in this version, let's say she stayed an extra night. So when the battle begins, she's still there and ends up getting attacked by Upper Moon 6. Tanjiro rushes in at incredible speed using sun breathing. Muichiro reacts quickly and blocks the attack. Nezuko and Mitsuri go straight for his head, but Tanjiro dashes back and counters with a burst of flame. Mitsuri shouts, "Oh my god, Upper Moon 6?" Nezuko stands there in shock, staring at Tanjiro. She can't believe what she's seeing. Her own brother, now a demon. And not just any demon, an Upper Moon. Nezuko starts screaming at her brother, "Tanjiro, is that really you?" But Tanjiro says nothing, his memories mostly erased by Muzan. Without hesitation, he charges at Nezuko. Muichiro quickly steps in to block the attack, and the two begin to clash in a fierce battle. Tanjiro isn't even at full strength, but he's using sun breathing, catching both Muichiro and Mitsuri off guard. They're shocked that a demon can even use breathing techniques, let alone the most powerful one in the entire show. Both Hashira are struggling to keep up with Tanjiro. His rapid regeneration, overwhelming speed, and deadly breathing techniques. Nezuko stands frozen in shock on the battlefield, unable to believe what her brother has become. Nezuko can't even move. She's frozen in shock. Then Genya rushes in, throws her to the side, and says, "If you're not going to help, then get out of the way." Since Tanjiro isn't at full power yet, he's actually struggling against Muichiro and Mitsuri. Then Upper Moon 5 shows up. He starts helping Tanjiro in the fight. The entire Swordsmith village erupts into chaos as explosions go off everywhere. Two Upper Moon demons battle the two Hashira, and Genya is badly injured. Genya only surviving because he's eating demons. They tell Genya they can't win this fight and urge him to grab Nezuko and warn the other Hashira that the Swordsmith village has been attacked. Genya quickly grabs Nezuko, does a quick dash, and starts running back. They finally arrive at the Demon Slayer headquarters in the morning, where Genya collapses from exhaustion. Nezuko immediately tells all the Hashira what happened at the Swordsmith village. All the Hashira rush to the village in panic. When they arrive, they see the entire village blown to pieces, and both Hashira who were defending it are now dead. After that, Nezuko vows that the next time she sees Tanjiro, she will kill him for the greater good. Nezuko trains even harder now, knowing that Mitsuri Kanroji is dead after the Swordsmith village attack. She pushes herself to the limit, with Shinobu backing her up. Nezuko talks to Shinobu about Tanjiro, knowing deep down that if he doesn't come back to his senses, she'll have to be the one to kill him. Now we cut back to Tanjiro, who arrives before Muzan and says, "We killed all the demon slayers at the Swordsmith village, and we destroyed everything, Lord Muzan." Muzan says good, but he already knows what Tanjiro is thinking. He wants to face more Hashira and get stronger for Muzan. Muzan nods and replies, "Very well. Then we'll start sending you after the remaining Hashira." Now we time skip. 6 months later. Nezuko is much stronger now, almost at Hashira level. There have been a lot more demon attacks lately, and she keeps hearing rumors about a red demon with a red sword going around, killing people and eating them. Deep down, she knows it's her brother. The Demon Slayer Corps finally gets a lead on where another Upper Moon is. This time, they don't repeat the mistake they made with Rengoku fighting Akaza alone. They've learned from the past, so instead of sending just one Hashira, they send multiple. Leading the mission are Shinobu and Sanemi. Their target? The Upper 6 demon, Tanjiro. They know his location. Nezuko and Kanao also join the mission, determined to put an end to his rampage. Tanjiro, using his sun breathing, slashes through the store incredibly fast, moving like a blazing fire. Sanemi launches a counterattack, and the two begin clashing fiercely. Meanwhile, Shinobu darts in and out with her poison, looking for an opening. Nezuko, now incredibly fast and nearly Hashira level, keeps up with the fight. She keeps trying to talk Tanjiro back back to his senses, but nothing is getting through. Backed into a corner, with the sun rising fast, Tanjiro starts to panic. He tries to get away from the sunlight, but Sanemi and Shinobu block his escape. Nezuko runs toward him, screaming, pleading, "Tanjiro, please come back! You're still in there. I know you are." The sunlight pours over him. They all watch, expecting him to burn alive. His skin starts to smoke. His body shakes. He drops to one knee, groaning in agony. But then it stops. The burning stops. Everyone stares in shock as Tanjiro slowly rises, still in demon form, but completely unaffected by the sun dot. In that silver moment, as Tanjiro fights against the burning sunlight, memories flood back. He remembers Nezuko, his sister, the bond they share. Suddenly, Nezuko runs to him and wraps her arms around him tightly. Her warmth breaks through the darkness inside him. That embrace snaps Tanjiro out of Muzan's control. Tanjiro looks around, confused, and says, "What's happening? Nezuko, are you alright? What's been going on all this time? Mom and Dad, what happened?" Nezuko explains, "There was a demon attack at our house." Tanjiro feels strange, overwhelmed. Why do I feel so powerful? Suddenly, memories flood back. His time as a demon, the battles he fought, the people he killed. Tanjiro kneels down, tears streaming, and whispers, "How am I going to atone for all of this?" Nezuko kneels beside him and says, "It's going to be okay, brother." They bring Tanjiro back to the group, but the Hashira are not happy to see a demon. The Hashira respect the master's word and follow his orders, but none of them like Tanjiro. Even though he's a demon who can withstand sunlight, their trust in him is fragile at best. Now Nezuko finally has her brother back, and they start training together. Tanjiro uses his sun breathing for good this time, aiming to kill every single demon. But Muzan realizes he's lost control over Tanjiro when he survived the sunlight. He knows Tanjiro broke free. Now, Tanjiro can even evade the sun's deadly rays. Muzan, furious and worried, tells the upper moons, "The thing I want is to capture Tanjiro." Now we get to the part where Kagaya Ubuyashiki sacrifices himself to give the demon slayers a fighting chance against Muzan. His selfless act inspires the entire demon slayer corps to unite and push forward, using every ounce of their strength and skill to take down Muzan once and for all. And now they all fall, including Tanjiro. Even though Tanjiro has become one of the strongest demons, the fight is still brutal. This time, Upper Moons 5 and 4 are still alive, making the battle even tougher. On the Hashira side, Mitsuri and Muichiro are already dead, and Rengoku is gone too. But this time, Tengen is still alive to fight alongside the remaining Hashira. Now Tanjiro and Nezuko get dropped into the battle, immediately facing off against Akaza. Let's go over which Hashira are fighting which Upper Moon in this intense showdown. Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, will be fighting Gyome Himejima, Obanai Iguro, and Genya. Upper Moon 2 will be fighting Shinobu Kocho, Inosuke Hashibira, and Kanao Tsuyuri. Now Upper Moon 5 and Upper Moon 4 will be fighting Giyu Tomioka and Tengen Uzui. These two have the hardest challenge because they're each facing one Upper Moon demons by themselves. Their main goal is to hold out until more demon slayers arrive, and fortunately, they have more strength and strategy on their side. But remember, they also have the support of the underling demon slayers to help them hold their ground. And then we have all the side battles, including Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, the new Upper Moon 6. Since Mitsuri is dead and Obanai is fighting Upper Moon 1, that leaves only Yushiro to face the battle alone and try to take control of the Infinity Castle. I think she would succeed, but it would be much harder this time, because instead of having the Hashira's support, he only has the underlings of the Demon Slayer Corps. Tanjiro and Nezuko make quick work of Akaza, then rush to help Giyu and Tengen, who are fighting Upper Moon 4 and Upper Moon 5. Meanwhile, Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, is battling Jome, Genya, and Obanai, who are fighting even harder than in the original timeline, since they don't have Muichiro's support. And somehow, all of them manage to defeat the Upper Moons. As for Upper Moon 2, the same fate unfolds as in the original timeline. Shinobu dies, and Doma succumbs to her poison. Now, the Hashira have all awakened the Demon Slayer mark, since Tanjiro has it, and is fighting all the Upper Moons using sun breathing. The rest of the Hashira have also gained the mark. They're all using it to fight against Muzan in the final Sunrise Countdown arc in this timeline. The only ones who die in the Infinity Castle are Shinobu and Genya. Defeating Muzan is much easier because Tanjiro is now a demon. He can regenerate limbs and heal quickly. This allows them to fight longer and safely reach the sunrise, where Muzan ultimately dies. In this timeline, Tanjiro never fully becomes a demon because he resists Muzan's control. Instead, they keep him stabilized with the human serum from Tamayo, and eventually, he turns back into a human. Now, after Muzan dies, Obanai dies during the final battle, and those who survive still die before 25 because of the Demon Slayer mark. So basically, the story ends much like the original, only this. What if Nezuko became a Demon Slayer with Tanjiro? I created 2 different timelines, and this is the best one I've ever come up with. So let's get get right into the video. I've gone over Demon Slayer and What If so much, you guys already know how this series goes. From the moment Tanjiro leaves his house to sell charcoal and ends up leaving his family behind. But instead of Tanjiro leaving by himself, Nezuko comes with him to help sell the coal and all that. So Tanjiro and Nezuko go to town together. On their way back, the old man stops them, warning them that demons roam at night. They both ask questions about the demons, curious and confused. But by the time they return home in the morning, their entire family has already been massacred by a single demon. After their entire family is massacred, Tanjiro and Nezuko are devastated. They bury their loved ones, confused and heartbroken. The strange thing is, none of the bodies were eaten, so they aren't even sure if it was a demon. Then Giyu shows up and explains the truth about demons and the Demon Slayer Corps. He tells them to seek out the former water Hashira, Urokodaki, to begin training in water breathing. After they reach Urokodaki's small shack in the middle of the woods, they begin learning water breathing. In this timeline, Nezuko is actually better than Tanjiro at water breathing. That doesn't necessarily mean she's stronger overall, but her technique and form are more refined. On the other hand, Tanjiro is probably physically stronger or faster, but Nezuko has the edge when it comes to mastering the breathing itself. Now here's the thing, some of you might be thinking that Nezuko would have sun breathing, but in the original timeline, the only one who really knew it was Tanjiro. He practiced the Hinokami Kagura with his father, while Nezuko only ever watched. She never actually learned it. I'll explain her unique breathing style once we get to the training arc, but for now, both of them are using water breathing. So final selection comes around, and Nezuko is actually allowed to participate since she's not a demon in this timeline. She and Tanjiro team up, using water breathing to take down all the demons, especially the hand demon. Tanjiro has a much easier time this time around, since he's not alone. Now, let's fast forward to when they meet the drum demon. He used to be a lower moon, but isn't anymore. Zenitsu and Inosuke show up along the way, and together they defeat the drum demon. But now it's time to face a real lower moon. And this is where things get interesting, because in this timeline, we don't have Demon Nezuko to rely on. So everything happens just like in the original timeline, up until they reach the mountain. Zenitsu usually stays back and cries, but this time, he decides to go. He doesn't want to act like a crybaby in front of Nezuko. So we've got Zenitsu, Inosuke, Nezuko, and Tanjiro all running through the mountain, defeating demons and helping out the other demon slayers. When they finally face the spider demon Dad, they defeat him much more easily since there are 4 of them working together. Just like in the original timeline, instead of Giyu showing up to help Inosuke, well, not really help, just kill the demon for him, he arrives and quickly finishes off Rui. It's so nonchalant. He simply walks up to Rui and slices his head off without hesitation. Tanjiro wants to learn more about flame breathing and its connection to sun breathing, so he goes on the Mugen train with Rengoku. But we're going to take a different path with Nezuko. Since she's better at breathing techniques than Tanjiro and her family worked with coal, I think she'd develop love breathing, which is actually a variation of flame breathing. So in this timeline, Nezuko would use love breathing. So before Tanjiro goes to the Mugen train with Inosuke and Zenitsu, Nezuko tells him, "I'm going to be training with Mitsuri to learn love breathing." Tanjiro responds, "Okay, I want to see if Rengoku knows anything about Hinokami Kagura." They both split up, and the events on the Mugen train play out, just like in the original timeline. The trio returns heartbroken. Rengoku has died. Nezuko is really worried about her brother, but she continues training in love breathing. Tanjiro takes time to recover and get back in shape. Then we move into the Entertainment District arc, which plays out differently in this timeline. Since Nezuko is a girl, she becomes one of the candidates to go undercover with Tengen. This time, I want to say that Kanao goes with them. I've always wanted to see what would happen if she joined the Entertainment District arc. I think Nezuko and Kanao would become good friends, so Nezuko convinces her to come along. Of course, Tanjiro also joined, but Inosuke and Zenitsu are sent on separate missions instead of joining the Entertainment District squad. So, in the Entertainment District, the only real change is that Kanao and Nezuko replace Inosuke and Zenitsu. The mission starts out mostly the same, but things change once the fighting begins. Just like before, Tanjiro meets Daki first and starts fighting her, while Tengen and the others are still dealing with the Belt Demon. But since Kanao is stronger and faster than Zenitsu and Inosuke, she and Nezuko arrive at the scene quicker. Because of that, Tanjiro doesn't pass out from exhaustion, and Nezuko never goes on a full rampage. Tengen then flies in and quickly cuts off Daki's head, and that's when the real Upper Moon 6 fight begins. Since Kanao is stronger than both Nezuko and Tanjiro, she helps Tengen fight Gyutaro, Upper Moon 6. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Nezuko team up against Daki, with Nezuko using love breathing and Tanjiro using Hinokami Kagura, also known as sun breathing. This time, Tengen doesn't lose a hand, and Tanjiro still unlocks his Demon Slayer mark. Together, they defeat Upper Moon 6. Kanao sits beside Tengen Tengen, frustrated that she can't do anything about the poison, even though she's the successor of Shinobu, who was a master of poisons. When Shinobu finds out that Kanao was on this mission, she rushes to the scene to make sure she's okay. By some stroke of luck, she arrives just in time and helps treat Tengen, using her knowledge of poisons to stabilize him and speed up his recovery. Tengen only survives by pure luck, but it's still hard for him to fully recover. The poison isn't completely gone. His body has to work it out slowly. Even with the antidote, it's not like a demon can just wipe it away instantly. And that wraps up the Entertainment District arc, the Swordsmith Village arc. Now, since Tengen doesn't lose his arm in this timeline, he stays on duty. It takes him a little while to recover from the poison, but with Shinobu treating him, he eventually heals. Kanao, Nezuko, and Tanjiro return with some pretty bad injuries, but Tanjiro doesn't fall into a coma this time. His fight with Daki wasn't as intense as his fight with Gyutaro in the original timeline, so overall, they all recover fairly quickly. Nezuko and Tanjiro start training together. Since Nezuko had watched their dad perform the Hinokami Kagura countless times, she tries to give Tanjiro some pointers as he trains. Even though he never fully learned it herself, she helps correct him if he messes up, pointing out anything that looks off. Tanjiro is determined to master the technique, and Nezuko becomes his extra set of eyes during training. After a couple of months of training, Tanjiro realizes that his swordsmith still hasn't made him a new sword, so he travels to the Swordsmith Village, and Nezuko goes with him. Since Mitsuri is there, Nezuko wants to talk with her about how she helped defeat the Upper Moon, and also show her the progress she's made. So she joins Tanjiro on the journey to the Swordsmith Village. Everything plays out just like the original timeline up until the demons arrive at the village. When Upper Moon 4 reaches the room, all of them attack at once, and Upper Moon 4 splits into all of his emotion clones. Muichiro gets blasted away, leaving Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya to face the emotion demons on their own. While Muichiro goes to fight Upper Moon 5, Mitsuri eventually returns. Everything plays out mostly like the original timeline, except for one key difference. Tanjiro never gets the red blade, since Nezuko doesn't light it on fire like before. They all end up defeating their demons, just like in the original timeline. But this time, since Nezuko is not a demon, she doesn't conquer the sun. So that wraps up the Swordsmith Village arc. Now we move into what would have been the Hashira training arc, but in this timeline, it never happens. There's no real plan for it, since Muzan had no serious interest in the Demon Slayers at first. But once he realizes that Upper Moons 4, 5, and 6 are gone, he snaps. Furious, he says, "I'm done with these pesky Demon Slayers," and teleports all of them into the Infinity Castle. But this time, Tengen is with them. And now, we've got human Nezuko in the mix. So, let's get into it. So let's get the side battles out of the way. We've got Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, and then Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro teaming up to fight the Biwa woman. Now, we're going to mix things up a bit. We've got Tanjiro and Nezuko teaming up to face Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Then we've got Upper Moon 2, Doma, going up against Shinobu, Tengen, Kanao, Giyu, and Inosuke. Then we've got Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, going up against Muichiro Tokido, Mist Hashira, Genya Shinasugawa, Sanemi Shinasugawa, Wind Hashira, and Gyome Himejima, Stone Hashira. Now let's get into the battle with Upper Moon 3, Akaza, versus Tanjiro and Nezuko. Some people in the comments might say Akaza would win this fight, especially since Giyu isn't there this time, but you guys are underestimating Tanjiro and Nezuko, because in this timeline, we've got a Tanjiro who's trained way more in Hinokami Kagura thanks to Nezuko's help. And Nezuko, using love breathing, is much stronger too. Together, they're able to hold off Akaza long enough for Tanjiro to unlock the selfless state, erasing his killing intent and allowing him to land the final blow that takes Akaza down. Then we move on to the fight with Doma. And this time, we've got 3 Hashira involved, plus Inosuke and Kanao. With that kind of lineup, I think they take him down pretty easily. Doma might be one of the strongest Upper Moons, but with Shinobu's poison, Tengen's speed, Giyu being one of the strongest Hashira, and the combined power of the group, he gets completely overwhelmed. Even Shinobu herself once said it would take 3 Hashira-level fighters to bring him down, and that's exactly what they've got. And if you guys are wondering about the Upper Moon 1 fight, it basically happens the same way as in the original timeline. Muichiro and Genya still die in the battle, and they're the only 2 who lose their lives in the Infinity Castle. Now, we move into the final showdown at sunrise. This time, we've got an extra Hashira Hashira still alive, and all of them begin fighting Muzan together. Let's say that during the final battle, Gyome Himejima, Obanai, and Mitsuri end up dying. But with Nezuko there, all the remaining Hashira, and a more refined Tanjiro mastering sun breathing, they're finally able to take down Muzan, just like in the original timeline. And honestly, it's a very sad ending. The only ones who really get a happy ending are Shinobu and Giyu, who finally end up together. Everyone else's story ends in a pretty tragic way, staying close to how it played out in the original timeline, which, in my opinion, is super sad. What if Tanjiro was raised by Yoriichi? So let's get right into this. To understand how this alternate timeline begins, we first need to go over Yoriichi Tsugikuni's backstory. Yoriichi was born during the Sengoku era, the golden age of demon slayers. From birth, he was marked by the demon slayer mark and possessed godlike talent. Unlike his twin brother Michikatsu, who later became Kokushibo, Yoriichi was humble, kind, and quiet. He created the original sun breathing technique, the foundation for all other breathing styles. Yoriichi was so powerful that even Muzan Kibutsuji, the demon king himself, barely escaped with his life after their battle. No one else in history came closer to killing Muzan. But despite his strength, Yoriichi lived a tragic life. He lost his wife and unborn child to demons, was exiled by the Demon Slayer Corps, and even failed to stop his own brother from falling to darkness. He died alone, but undefeated. Now that we've covered Yoriichi's backstory, let's move on to how Tanjiro comes into play. Sumiyoshi was a kind-hearted man who lived during the Sengoku era. He befriended Yoriichi after Yoriichi left the Demon Slayer Corps. Sumiyoshi deeply admired Yoriichi and was the one who preserved the Hinokami Kagura, a dance based on sun breathing, by passing it down through his family for generations. Let's just say the baby that Sumiyoshi was holding while talking to Yoriichi was Tanjiro Kamado. Then, one fateful day, the Kamado family is attacked by demons. By the time Yoriichi returns, it's nearly too late. He manages to save what little he can, but not enough. Cradling his dear friend Sumiyoshi in his arms, Yoriichi watches him take his final breath. The only one left alive is a young Tanjiro Kamado. Yoriichi realizes that he can't just leave Tanjiro there. So young Tanjiro and Yoriichi travel together. In just a few days, Tanjiro witnesses countless demons being slain by Yoriichi right before his eyes. Then, Yoriichi begins teaching Tanjiro a breathing technique. At first, Yoriichi isn't even sure if Tanjiro can use sun breathing, so he tries training him in different breathing styles, but none of them seem to suit him. But Yoriichi gives it a try anyway, knowing that not everyone can use sun breathing. Still, he decides to test it with Tanjiro, and to his surprise, Tanjiro actually feels more in sync with it than any other style. Then, Tanjiro receives his Nichiren blade, and his sword turns black, just like Yoriichi's once did. Yoriichi sees this as a sign of potential, and believes Tanjiro may truly be capable of mastering sun breathing. Let's time skip. 14 years later, Tanjiro is now 15 years old. He can use sun breathing to its fullest potential. His sense of smell is even sharper than in the original timeline, and at this point, he's probably above Hashira level. Let's just say Yoriichi dies of old age, and Muzan and Kokushibo learn of his death. By then, Tanjiro is around 17 years old. He sets out on his own and joins the Demon Slayer Corps. Now Tanjiro instantly becomes a Hashira because he's absolutely the strongest. He has the transparent world, the flawless state, the Demon Slayer mark, a red Nichiren blade, and he uses one of the most powerful breathing styles in the show. After Yoriichi's death, Muzan and Kokushibo decide to wipe out all the Demon Slayers at once. Let's say that all the Hashira from the original timeline remain Hashira now, and all the Upper Moons from the original timeline are still the Upper Moons. In fact, most of the Upper Moons were already alive back then. Kokushibo and Muzan launch a brutal attack on the Demon Slayers. Real quick, guys, I don't want to be annoying, but if you want early access to my videos and shorts, the first 2 people who join get to pick what video I make next. I'm only doing this for about 24 hours after the video goes up. You can join my channel down below. Now Muzan attacks, pulling every single Demon Slayer into the Infinity Castle. Now all 6 Upper Moons are still alive, but we've still got all the Hashira, so let's get into this fight. Now let's go over which Upper Moon and which Hashira are going to face each other. Daki and Gyutaro versus Tengen Uzui and Kyojuro Rengoku. Gyoko versus Muichiro Tokito Hantengu versus Obanai Iguro and Mitsuri Kanroji. Akaza versus Tanjiro Kamado. Doma versus Shinobu Kocho Kanao Tsuyuri and Inosuke Hashibira. Kokushibo versus Gyome Himejima Sanemi Shinazugawa, Giyu Tomioka, and Genya Shinazugawa. Now let's get into all the side battles. Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. Nakime versus Yushiro. Now let's get into detail of the fights Daki and Gyutaro versus Tengen Uzui and Kyojuro Rengoku. This should be a pretty easy battle. Tengen doesn't get poisoned easily, and Rengoku is strong enough to take down Daki without much trouble. Gyoko versus Muichiro Tokito. He defeated him just like he did in the original series. Hantengu versus Obanai Iguro and Mitsuri Kanroji. This one should be pretty fun. I'd say Obanai holds out until Mitsuri finds the demon and cuts off its head. Akaza versus Tanjiro Kamado. Now, this fight is going to be way too easy for Tanjiro. Akaza goes all out from the start, but Tanjiro is just too strong. He's mastered sun breathing, unlocked the flawless state, and sees through everything with the transparent world. There's no doubt Tanjiro wins this, and he doesn't even break a sweat. Doma versus Shinobu Kocho, Kanao Tsuyuri, and Inosuke Hashibira. Now, just like in the original timeline, Doma kills Shinobu Doma, then dies from Shinobu's poison. Kokushibo versus Gyomei Himejima Sanemi, Shinazugawa Giyu Tomioka, and Genya Shinazugawa. This fight should be much easier for them, since Giyu is stronger than Muichiro Tokito, so he'll be a huge help. Tanjiro would finish his fight quickly, because he's super strong, and he goes help with Upper Moon 1. There's no way Kokushibo could defeat all of them. Giyu, Gyomei, Sanemi, Genya, and Tanjiro. Now we get to the Sundown Countdown arc, starting right after the Infinity Castle. This time, Muzan dies very quickly. Tanjiro, much like Yoriichi, can kill him with ease. Muzan is split into 1,700 pieces, and with all the Hashira backing Tanjiro, the fight is pretty easy. I've always wanted to give Demon Slayer a happier ending, because how it ended in the original timeline was pretty sad. So, in this version, Mitsuri and Obanai's love story plays out fully. They live a happy life together. Muichiro lives on even longer, and most of the Hashira survive. Rengoku survives, and Tengen doesn't lose his arm. Now, if you want to see what happens if Tanjiro becomes an What if 2 Hashiras was sent to the Mugen train in Demon Slayer? When it comes to which Hashira should have been sent to the Mugen train, Rengoku is the obvious choice. But if we're adding a second, Gyomei is the only real option. No other Hashira, even teaming up with Rengoku, could defeat Akaza. Only the Stone Hashira stands a chance. The Tanjiro trio, Rengoku, and Gyomei board the train and are immediately put into the dream. While Rengoku does what he did in the original timeline, choking one, Tanjiro breaks free from the dream and wakes everyone up. Gyomei and Zenitsu protect the whole train, while Rengoku, Tanjiro, and Inosuke work together to fight the Lower Moon One on the train. Their combined strength easily overpowers the demon. After they defeat the Lower Moon One, the train flips over and everyone manages to get out safely. Then, Gyomei and Rengoku begin their battle against Akaza. Akaza notices their strength immediately. He can see people's power just by looking at them. He goes all out, fighting seriously, while Gyomei holds him back, trying to block his deadly attacks. Meanwhile, Rengoku launches a series of fierce and deadly attacks aimed straight at Akaza. Akaza was losing badly, but then he saw the sunlight approaching. Trying to escape, he made a run for it, but Gyomei stopped him. Meanwhile, Rengoku held him down until the sunlight hit, causing Akaza to burn and finally turn to ash. Muzan immediately knows that Akaza is dead. Furious, he returns to his Infinity Castle and calls a meeting with all the Upper Moons. They're all shocked to learn that Upper Moon 3, one of their strongest, has been killed. Cut back to the Demon Slayers, turn with barely any injuries, except for Tanjiro, who got stabbed. Despite that, Tanjiro gets right back to work afterward. Now that Rengoku is still alive, the Demon Slayer Corps has an extra pillar compared to the original timeline. Then the Entertainment District arc begins, and the Demon Slayer Corps suspects an Upper Moon is hiding there. But this time, Rengoku goes with them. Now, the Entertainment District arc moves much faster because Tengen, Rengoku, and Tanjiro trio. Tengen takes on Gyutaro since he can withstand the poison longer, while Rengoku fights Daki. The Tanjiro trio stays back during the fight, not getting in the way but still offering support when needed. The fight ends pretty easily, with Nezuko healing Tengen's poison. Together, they basically destroy Upper Moon 6. Tengen remains a Hashira and recovers without losing his arm. Now Muzan is furious and comes up with a plan. Since he knows where the Swordsmith village is, he sends Upper Moon 2 with them. Rengoku grips his sword tightly and decides to go to the Swordsmith village alongside Tanjiro. Now with Rengoku, Mitsuri, and Muichiro. Everything happens just like the original timeline. When the demons attack, Tanjiro and Muichiro team up to fight Upper Moon 5. Tanjiro and Muichiro finish off Upper Moon 5 after both unlocking their Demon Slayer marks. With their combined power, the fight ends quickly, allowing them to rush to help the other Demon Slayers. Mitsuri, Genya, and Rengoku are trying to hold back Upper Moon 2 and Upper Moon 4, but they're being overwhelmed and starting to lose. Just when things are looking bad, Tanjiro and Muichiro join the fight. With their arrival, the battle turns. Rengoku awakens his Demon Slayer mark, and Mitsuri unlocks hers soon after. Now with 4 powerful Demon Slayers, each with a mark, they begin overpowering the 2 Upper Moons. Together, they finish the job and bring the demons down. They manage to finish the fight, but Rengoku is left in critical condition. Mitsuri is badly injured, and Genya is barely standing. The 3 of them had taken the brunt of the early battle and pushed themselves to the limit. After the fight, all three are taken away to recover. Now the final training arc begins. With Rengoku still alive and most of the Hashira already having awakened their Demon Slayer marks, they all work together to push the others to unlock theirs as well. Everything plays out just like the original timeline, except this time, Rengoku is now with them. After the training is complete, Muzan launches his attack on the Ubuyashiki family, just like in the original timeline. The leader still dies, and Muzan sends everyone to the Infinity Castle. But this time, most of the Hashira have awakened their Demon Slayer marks, and Rengoku and Tengen are both alive and ready to fight. Just like the original timeline, Tanjiro and Giyu team up to fight Upper Moon. Meanwhile, Tengen takes on Upper Moon 2 alongside Shinobu, Inosuke, and Kanao. Doma eats Shinobu, but she still dies. It was always part of her plan, using her poison as the only way to kill him. Now, Upper Moon 1 faces off against Rengoku, Gyome, Sanemi, Genya, and Muichiro. In this alternate timeline, Muichiro survives. Now all four of the Hashira, Rengoku, Gyome, Sanemi, and Muichiro, team up against Upper Moon 1 and kill him much faster than in the original timeline. Though all of them are badly hurt, they prepare to face Muzan next. Now, with most of them still alive and much less injured, all the Demon Slayers, with their Demon Slayer marks, come together to fight Muzan. They're stronger than ever, ready to take on the final battle. In the battle against Muzan, almost all the Hashira survive except for Gyome and Rengoku. Those two are the only ones who don't make it through. Rengoku is the main Hashira who protects everyone during the battle, and Gyome also has the Demon Slayer mark since he's over 25. In this timeline, all the Hashira who have awakened the Demon Slayer mark die by age 25. That's the condition tied to the mark. But at least this timeline has a happier ending. Even with the Demon Slayer mark's cost, more Hashira survive, and in this timeline, my boy Muichiro, who was only 14 when he died in the original story, survives and lives for at least 10 more years, finally getting to experience a full and happy life. And in this timeline, one of the best couples in Demon Slayer, Mitsuri Kanroji and Obanaya Guro, actually survive and get to be happy together. Hey, what if Nezuko joined Muzan? I've done a ton of research, and this is the best timeline I could come up with. Everything happens the same. Tanjiro leaves to go sell coal, and his whole family stays behind. That night, they get attacked by Muzan. But this time, Muzan doesn't leave. Because he hears a faint heartbeat, Muzan decides to stay. He injects his blood into Nezuko, turning her into a demon right then and there. She begins rampaging wildly, fully embracing her new demonic nature. After Nezuko finishes her rampage, Muzan approaches her and asks, "Where is the blue spider lily?" Nezuko kneels before him and replies, "I don't know, Lord Muzan." At first, Muzan is calm, but then he searches through Nezuko's memories. In them, he sees a vision from her childhood. Nezuko's mother once brought her to a field of blue spider lilies. Muzan's eyes widen. He realizes he was this close to the one thing he searched for all his life, and he missed it. Filled with rage, he screams in fury, knowing he was once just inches away from the key to walking in the sun. Now Muzan takes her to the Infinity Castle, feeds her a bunch of humans, injects more blood into her, and then sends her out on her own, where she starts eating a bunch of humans. Then we cut back to Tanjiro, burying his family, and wondering why Nezuko isn't there. He still holds on to hope that she's out there. Giyu arrives and tells him to train with Urokodaki and master water breathing. Tanjiro goes through everything he did in the original timeline, but this time without Nezuko. The only major difference comes during his fight with Rui. He doesn't have enough power to truly fight him, and ends up on the brink of death until Giyu shows up and saves him. Now we cut back to Nezuko, and in this timeline, she has become Lower Moon 1. In the original timeline, after Rui died, Muzan killed all the Lower Moons, but this time, since Nezuko is one of them, he doesn't do that. Then we come back to Tanjiro. This is around the time of the Mugen Train arc, with Rengoku, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tanjiro. But this time, Tanjiro is stronger on his own, since he had to fight all those demons without Nezuko. In the original timeline, Nezuko had some clutch moments. Her best one in Season 1 was probably during the fight with Rui. Basically, everything happens like in the original timeline, except Tanjiro is a little bit stronger, and Rengoku still dies to Akaza. Well, that was a nice quick little arc. Now we move on to the Entertainment District arc, with Inosuke, Zenitsu, Tanjiro, Tengen, and his wives. The only major change happens during Daki's fight with Tanjiro, when his eye starts bleeding. This time, Tanjiro gets the job done and manages to kill Daki. But then her brother, Gyutaro, emerges, and now they're in even bigger trouble. Gyutaro is way stronger, and even Tengen has a hard time fighting him. So the only possible way I can see Tanjiro surviving this is if Tengen arrives earlier, along with Inosuke and Zenitsu. Then the fight starts. Daki and Gyutaro versus Tengen, Tanjiro, Inosuke, Inosuke, and Zenitsu. So let's say we mix things up. Tanjiro unlocks his Demon Slayer mark earlier, not later in the fight. Then Tengen unlocks his own mark as well. With both of them powered up, the battle becomes much easier, and Tengen might not even lose his arm this time. Overall, everything goes much better than in the original timeline. They finally kill Daki and Gyutaro, and this time it's much easier. Tengen never loses his arm, but he's still close to death due to Gyutaro's poison. Instead of Obanai showing up, Shinobu arrives and gives him the antidote. Tengen survives and stays as a Hashira, which is good because they're going to need him. The new Upper Moon 6 is Nezuko. Now that we're finally done with the entertainment district, we move on to the Swordsmith Village arc with Muichiro, Genya, and Mitsuri. Now, everything happens just like in the original timeline, and then we cut to the Hashira training arc. Everything happens the same, and Tengen is still a Hashira. Then we get to the part where the master dies, and they all get thrown into the Infinity Castle. Now, we're at the Infinity Castle arc, but here's the twist. The fights are going to be different. They're going up against different Upper Moon demons. Since Nezuko is now Upper Moon 6, the matchups have changed. Let's go over that real quick. So this time, Tanjiro isn't going to get revenge on Akaza. Let's start with Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, facing off against Obanai, Gyomei, and Sanemi. I want to keep this one the same because it's my favorite matchup in the original series. Upper Moon 2, Doma, going up against Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke. Now let's do Upper Moon 3, Akaza, versus Muichiro and Tengen. Then we finally get to Upper Moon 6, Nezuko, and we're going to put Tanjiro and Giyu against her. Now let's get to the side battles. Kaigaku versus Zenitsu, then Yushiro and Mitsuri going up against Nakime. They're trying to take control of the Infinity Castle. My bad, guys. I almost forgot about Genya. Let's throw him in with Upper Moon 1. Now, let's go over all the battles. Upper Moon 1 is defeated by the 3 Hashira and Genya. Upper Moon 2 gets defeated. Just like in the original timeline, 3 is probably the hardest battle for the Hashira since Tanjiro is not there, but they managed to get the fight done and kill Akaza. Now let's get to the fight with Upper Moon 6 Nezuko. Tanjiro refuses to kill her because Nezuko is one of his last remaining family members. Giyu does most of the fighting because Tanjiro is in shock that Upper Moon 6 is his own sister. It's a long drawn-out fight between Giyu and Nezuko. Giyu keeps asking Tanjiro for help, and eventually Tanjiro snaps out of it and tries to get Nezuko to stop. Giyu gets blasted and badly hurt by one of Nezuko's attacks. Tanjiro grabs her, but then Nezuko pierces Tanjiro. Despite the pain, Tanjiro tries to reach her heart, begging her to come back. Finally, she snaps out of Muzan's control, looks at Tanjiro and says, "Tanjiro, is that you?" Muzan tries to regain control of Nezuko, but then she starts having flashbacks of her family. Their memories help her break free of Muzan's control completely, so Tanjiro and Giyu are both badly hurt by Nezuko. Nezuko starts crying and says, "How am I going to atone for all this time?" Tanjiro says, "It's fine, sister. You can help us defeat the Demon King." Tanjiro and Giyu start wrapping up their wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. Right now, Muzan is stuck in his spot and can't do anything with the Infinity Castle. Because Yushiro was controlling it, the castle had already been stopped and taken over. So Muzan kills Nakime in the Infinity Castle, which then begins to collapse. The demon controlling the Infinity Castle gets all the Demon Slayers out of there, and then we move into the final arc, the Sunrise Countdown arc. Now, since there's another Hashira, when they were all fighting Upper Moon 1, the only one who died in the Infinity Castle was Shinobu with Nezuko's help. All the Demon Slayers fight Muzan and win much faster than in the original timeline. After Muzan is defeated, Nezuko turns back into a human. With the help of the humanization serum, Nezuko helped them fight Muzan, so not a lot of Hashira died. The only ones who lost their lives were Shinobu and Gyomei. Shinobu died in the Infinity Castle, and Gyomei died while fighting Muzan. After that, we see Mitsuri and Obanai's love story unfold. Then we get to see my boy, Muichiro, actually live a long life, probably until around 25, because he had the Demon Slayer mark. It's definitely better than the original timeline.
What if Yoriichi's wife wasn't killed by a demon? Let's go over his backstory first. Yoriichi Tsugikuni was born during the Sengoku era as the younger twin of Michikatsu Tsugikuni, the man who would one day become Kokushibo. In their household, twins were seen as a curse, and because Yoriichi was born with a red birthmark on his forehead, his father assumed he wouldn't live long. He was cast aside, given little attention, and meant to live in his brother's shadow. But Yoriichi was different. Even as a child, he carried an extraordinary gift, the ability to see into the transparent world, allowing him to read the flow of muscles, blood, and movement with impossible clarity. Paired with his natural strength and calm spirit, he was destined for greatness. After his mother's death, Yoriichi left home and wandered aimlessly until he met a kind girl named Uta, who, like him, had lost her family. They grew close, married, and built a peaceful life together. Yoriichi even gave up fighting, content to live quietly at her side. In the original timeline, tragedy struck when Yoriichi left home to help an old man, only to return and find Uta slain by a demon. But in this altered timeline, that chance meeting never happens. Yoriichi never encounters the old man, never leaves his wife unguarded. Instead, he returns home in time to face the demon himself, blade in hand, determined to protect the woman he loves. He fought the demon until sunrise, and this wasn't the first time we've seen someone overcome one without a Nichiren blade. Just like Gyomei, Sanemi, and even Muichiro, Yoriichi held the demon at bay without ever taking a single injury, restraining it until the morning sun reduced it to ash. 2 or 3 days later, Yoriichi finally went into town to speak with people, and there he encountered the very first Flame Hashira. Yoriichi told him about the demon that had attacked his wife, how he fought it until sunrise, and how he was able to defeat it. The Flame Hashira, impressed by his strength, invited Yoriichi to join the Demon Slayer Corps. Yoriichi, however, declined. He no longer wished to live as a fighter. Still, he requested a Nichiren blade, just in case another demon appeared and threatened someone else. Respecting his decision, the Flame Hashira agreed and arranged for a blade to be delivered to him. This meeting makes sense in this alternate timeline, because in the original story, the Flame Hashira had gone to check on Yoriichi's home only a few days after the tragedy. Here, instead of finding only loss, he meets Yoriichi himself in town. Yoriichi now spends his days peacefully with his wife and newborn child. Still, he never turns his back on his duty to protect them. Anytime a demon approaches their home or threatens the nearby town, he personally hunts it down. Word of his unmatched skill eventually reaches the Ubuyashiki family. The very first head of the clan, the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, visits Yoriichi directly to ask him to officially join their ranks. Yoriichi once again refuses, unwilling to fully return to a life of constant battle. But he does make one promise: he will share what he's learned. Yoriichi begins teaching the other Hashira candidates his unique breathing method, the foundation that would later branch into the flame, water, thunder, wind, and many more styles. While he chooses the life of a husband and father, his knowledge becomes the seed that reshapes the Demon Slayer Corps forever. In this Ultra timeline, things change drastically. Michikatsu Tsugikuni, Kokushibo in the original story, never becomes a demon. Since Yoriichi never shows up to save him and his fellow samurai from a demon attack, Michikatsu never joins the Demon Slayer Corps or turns into a demon. Instead, he simply lives out a normal human life. Yoriichi, meanwhile, stays with his wife and child. He continues slaying any demons that come near their home or the nearby towns, but he never carries the same burden as in the original story. He grows old peacefully alongside his family, and they live a full life together. When Yoriichi and his wife eventually pass away from old age, their bloodline continues forward. Generations later, it carries all the way into the Taisho era, Tanjiro Kamado's era.
Now, we shift focus to the Kamado family. Tanjiro Kamado sets out for the village to sell charcoal, leaving his family behind for the night. On the way, he's stopped by an old man who warns him about demons roaming the mountains and convinces him to stay until morning. When Tanjiro finally returns home, he's met with tragedy. His entire family has been slaughtered by demons. The only survivor is his sister, Nezuko, but she has been turned into a demon. At that moment, the water Hashira, Giyu Tomioka, appears. Giyu directs him to seek out the former water Hashira, Sakonji Urokodaki, on Mount Sagiri. There, Tanjiro will begin his training in water breathing, the first step in preparing to join the Demon Slayer Corps. Time passes, through the final selection, through training arcs, through every milestone, until we reach the Mount Natagumo arc. On this mountain, where the lower moon daemon Rui awaits, we see a strange young boy appear. He has striking red hair, red eyes, and carries an old-looking sword. His red kimono stands out against the mist of the mountain. This boy is revealed to be a direct descendant of Yoriichi Tsugikuni's bloodline, carrying not only his features, but the faint echo of his sun-breathing heritage. At the edge of the mountain, he encounters Tanjiro Kamado, Nezuko, Zenitsu, and Inosuke. At first, there's tension. The boy moves toward Nezuko with sharp intent, clearly sensing the demonic blood within her. Tanjiro and his friends stand in his way, prepared to fight if necessary. But after the confrontation, the truth becomes clear. This boy isn't an enemy. He is Yoriichi's legacy, a descendant whose presence ties the old era to the new. Instead of clashing, they find common ground, and from that moment on, he becomes an ally to Tanjiro and his companions. As Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Inosuke climb Mount Natagumo, Zenitsu remains at the bottom. This time, however, they're not alone. A mysterious boy with red hair and red eyes joins them. He carries an old sword, but his movements reveal something far greater: mastery of sun-breathing and the transparent world. With him in the group, the battle unfolds much faster. While Tanjiro and Inosuke struggle against the controlled demon slayers, the boy cuts through demons with flawless precision. Every step, every swing, looks like he already knows the enemy's moves before they happen. Tanjiro and Inosuke are stunned. Inosuke even tries to test him, refusing to believe anyone could outclass him so easily, but quickly realizes this stranger is on an entirely different level. When they finally reach Rui, the lower Moon 5, the fight that nearly cost Tanjiro his life in the original story ends in moments. The boy's sun breathing overwhelms Rui's threads, and he cuts him down with ease. Just as the dust settles, Giyu Tomioka and Shinobu Kocho arrive. But instead of finding Tanjiro near death, they witness something far more shocking. A red-haired boy, clearly no ordinary demon slayer, standing victorious over a lower moon. After slaying Rui, the lower moon 5, the red-haired boy can barely contain himself. He jumps up and down with excitement, shouting, "I did it! I killed a lower moon! That means I get to become a Hashira, right? I finally get to be a Hashira." Just then, Giyu Tomioka steps onto the battlefield. The boy rushes over, eyes glowing, and says, "Giyu, did you see that? I just killed a lower moon demon all on my own. Doesn't this mean I can become a Hashira now? Please, you've got to tell them." But Giyu, silent as ever, doesn't give him the reaction he wants. His calm, unreadable expression leaves the boy hanging, unsure whether his achievement will really earn him the rank he's been dreaming of. His backstory: this boy isn't just another demon slayer. He comes from the bloodline of Yoriichi Tsugikuni, and his family always carried the knowledge of demons' existence. For generations, his ancestors quietly protected their village, using fragments of sun breathing passed down through the years to keep their homes safe from demons. Because of that, he grew up already knowing about the Demon Slayer Corps. Unlike most recruits, he didn't stumble into this life by accident. He chose it, determined to carry his family's legacy into the modern era. By the time he joined, he already had sun breathing, the transparent world, and years of secret training behind him. This is why he stands out so much. He didn't just meet Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke by coincidence. He's already familiar with many Hashira, having trained alongside them and sparred to prove himself. But in his mind, killing a lower moon is the final step he needs to become one of them. Alright, let's clear something up here. Tanjiro doesn't know sun breathing, since Yoriichi never met his ancestors. So Tanjiro only uses water breathing. Now back to the story. We're at the Hashira meeting. They question why Tanjiro is traveling with a demon, and everything plays out the same as before with Sanemi and the others. But this time, after the explanation, the Hashira begin to debate. Should the red-haired boy become a Hashira? The Hashira are split. Half of them argue that he should become a Hashira, since the rule states that if you slay a lower moon, you're eligible. But the other half believe he's too immature and childish to hold such a title. Shinobu argues that the boy deserves to become a Hashira, since the rules clearly state that defeating a lower moon qualifies one for the title. She even points out that when Rengoku slew a lower moon, he was promoted to Hashira, so why should this boy be treated differently? But when the master arrives, he delivers the final decision. Despite the boy's strength, the master declares that he is still not ready, and that his immaturity makes him unfit to hold the title of Hashira, at least for now. His name is Takao. After the meeting, Tanjiro and Takao begin talking, and quickly notice something strange. They both have black blades. They wonder why their swords share the same color, something considered rare and mysterious among demon slayers. Tanjiro then asks Takao how he's able to move so quickly and fight with such precision. Takao explains that it comes from sun breathing, a technique passed down only through his family. Curious, Tanjiro asks if he can learn it. At first, Takao doubts it, saying that only his bloodline could use the style. But to his surprise, Tanjiro is actually able to grasp it. This shocks Takao. After their conversation about sun breathing, Takao begins training with Tanjiro. He admits, "I'm honestly surprised you can use it. Everyone else who's tried has failed, which is why the other breathing styles even exist in the first place. But you actually managed to pull it off." From there, the story moves into the Mugen Train arc. The same squad heads out alongside Rengoku, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Inosuke, and Zenitsu all board the train. Just like in the original timeline, they fall under Enmu's spell, are forced into dreams, and eventually wake up to battle. The events play out nearly the same. The squad struggles, Rengoku gives his all, and Akaza eventually arrives. Despite Tanjiro's new grasp of sun breathing, he hasn't fully mastered it yet, so it doesn't make a major difference. Rengoku still dies protecting everyone, and the arc ends just as it originally did, with the group mourning his sacrifice, but more determined than ever to carry on his spirit. Now let me know if you guys want a part 2, because this timeline is probably really confusing for people who haven't read the manga. If you like this kind of content, drop a comment and let me know if you want me to continue.
What if Michiro and Yuichiro both survived and became a demon slayer? Now let's get this video started. We're jumping right into the part where they get attacked by a demon, until the flame Hashira, Rengoku, shows up and slices the demon's head off instantly. Everyone is shocked and impressed, realizing this is a real Hashira, and that demons truly exist. From there, they decide to go train with the Ubuyashiki family. Now, as a team, Michiro and Yuichiro both begin training together. Michiro naturally develops his mist breathing, since it suits his movement
movements and reflects the style he created himself. He's also more cheerful in this timeline because he never lost his memories and still has his brother by his side. Yuichiro, on the other hand, is harsher and more aggressive, so his style leans toward wind breathing, similar to Sanemi's. The only reason he's given this style is because his attacks focus heavily on raw power, matching his personality and combat approach. Once their training is complete, every mission they take on is done together, and their strength is undeniable. As descendants of the Tsugikuni family, they already have natural talent, but with both brothers pushing each other, they grow even stronger. Instead of Muichiro training alone, like in the original timeline, Yuichiro's presence drives him to constantly improve. Because of this, both brothers rise quickly and eventually achieve the rank of Hashira. Their teamwork makes them almost unstoppable, always feeding off each other's growth and skills. When the Swordsmith Village arc arrives, the two are sent there since their intense training and constant missions have caused their blades to wear down. Both brothers now need new swords forged, marking the beginning of their next big step as Hashira. When Tanjiro talks with them, Muichiro is cheerful and kind, but Yuichiro is always rude to him, acting much like Sanemi. Muichiro, however, stays patient and even apologizes for his brother's behavior. Now, moving on to the Upper Moon's arrival. Instead of Muichiro being blown away from the fight against Upper Moon 4, like in the original timeline, he and Yuichiro stay together. This time, the twins face the Upper Moon head-on, and because of their combined strength and teamwork, they prove far more capable of fighting him. This time, Muichiro and Yuichiro fight extremely well together. They push Upper Moon 4 much harder than in the original timeline, quickly cutting down all of his emotional clones until only his true body and one smaller form remain. With their combined strength, they hold him off far better than Muichiro ever did alone. In the heat of battle, both brothers unlock their Demon Slayer marks, their power spiking as they continue the fight. Around the same time, Tanjiro returns. Nezuko manages to resist the sunlight and gains her immunity, and together with the twins, they finally defeat Upper Moon 4 once and for all. Meanwhile, Mitsuri Kanroji engages Upper Moon 5, and the fight plays out much like in the original timeline. She unlocks her Demon Slayer mark, pushes herself to the limit, and manages to hold her ground against the demon. With her strength and resolve, the fight ends the same way it once did, her passion and power, proving that she's one of the strongest Hashira. From here, the story moves forward into the Hashira training arc. The Hashira training arc plays out mostly the same, but with one big difference. Tanjiro's training is paired with both brothers. Muichiro focuses on teaching him defensive techniques, while Yuichiro pushes him with a more aggressive, tactical approach in swordsmanship. This balance gives Tanjiro a sharper edge than in the original story. Meanwhile, Muzan's plan finally unfolds in full, and the Demon Slayer core is pulled straight into the Infinity Castle. And now, we enter the Infinity Castle arc. Now let's clear this up. In this timeline, Rengoku still dies during the Mugen Train arc. Tengen Uzui eventually retires. Because of that, neither of them are present when the Demon Slayers enter the Infinity Castle. First, let's go over Akaza versus Gyu and Tanjiro. That battle plays out almost the same as the original timeline. Tanjiro enters the selfless state and lands the final blow. In the end, Akaza lets himself fade away, feeling remorse and finally reuniting with the memory of his wife. Next, we move on to the fight against Doma. This battle also plays out very similarly to the original. Shinobu still sacrifices herself, Kanao fights with everything she has, and Inosuke helps finish Doma off once and for all. After finishing the battle with Upper Moon 2, things get really intense as the fight with Upper Moon 1 begins. This time, Muichiro and his brother Yuichiro arrive first to confront Kokushibo. Unlike the original timeline, where Muichiro had his hand cut off early on, the brothers managed to last much longer together. This time, Kokushibo is defeated without Muichiro dying, and without Genya dying either. Gayome's presence made a huge difference, giving them the edge needed to survive. His support allowed Muichiro to stay alive, and together they managed to bring down Upper Moon 1. Now we move to the side battles. Zenitsu faces Kaigaku, and just like in the original timeline, he successfully defeats him. Meanwhile, Nakime battles Obanaye Guro and Mitsuri Kanroji inside the Infinity Castle. With their combined effort, they managed to kill her and stop the castle from collapsing under Muzan's control. With the Upper Moons finally defeated, everyone now prepares for the final showdown, the Sunrise Countdown against Muzan Kibutsuji. Now, with Muichiro and the others having their Demon Slayer marks, everything in the final battle against Muzan plays out almost exactly like in the original timeline. Tanjiro delivers the finishing blow, Muzan is defeated, and the sun finally ends his reign. The main difference in this timeline is that Muichiro doesn't die during the fight. Instead, he survives. But because of the Demon Slayer mark, his life is still cut short. Just like the others with marks, he eventually passes away at the age of 25. Guillaume also survives the final battle, but he too meets the same fate at 25, as the curse of the mark claims their lives. So while the ending remains almost the same, one major change is that Muichiro lived longer, carrying his strength and legacy a bit further than in the original story. And that's the end of this timeline. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more alternate scenarios, What if Tanjiro's dad became a demon slayer? I created multiple timelines for this, and this is the best one I could find, so let's get right into it. Tanjiro's dad's real name is Tanjiro Kamado. In the series, we learn he had already passed away before episode 1, so we only see him in flashbacks. It's stated in the Entertainment District arc that Tanjiro himself wasn't considered particularly special, but his father was the last truly exceptional one in the family. Tanjiro had a small mark on his forehead, similar to Yoriichi's full Demon Slayer mark, which gave him special abilities. That mark allowed him to access the transparent world, use sun breathing, and push past his limits with incredible skill. Before we dive into this what if, let's first break down what the Demon Slayer mark actually is. Since Tanjiro was born with the mark, he already had access to the transparent world, along with enhanced stamina, strength, and overall abilities. But the thing about the Demon Slayer mark is that it shortens your lifespan, pushing your body far beyond its limits. But since he was born with it, that rule doesn't necessarily apply. After all, Yoriichi was born with the mark and lived well past 25, so in this timeline, the sickness that killed Tanjiro is gone, meaning he survives past episode 1. Instead of Tanjiro going alone to sell coal, his dad comes with him. After selling all the coal, an old man stops them on their way back and warns them about demons being out at night. Tanjiro tells his dad they should stay the night, so they do. But when they return home the next morning, they find their entire family dead, killed by a demon. Let's clear something up. In the original series, Tanjiro died from an illness at age 25. Some people might think that was because of the Demon Slayer mark, but it wasn't. It was just a random illness. He was born with the Demon Slayer mark, and it was active, so his death had nothing to do with the mark itself. Now let's go back to the story. Everything plays out like normal. Nezuko becomes a demon, and Tanjiro and his dad try to get her some help. Giyu shows up, and this is where things change. Tanjiro is strong, but his dad is even stronger, having truly mastered sun breathing. Remember, he once took down a bear using just a rusty axe. Because of that, he gives Giyu a much harder fight. They're almost on the same level. The only drawback is that Tanjiro doesn't have a proper weapon, which holds him back. Eventually, Giyu lets Tanjiro, his dad, and Nezuko go to train with the former water Hashira, Urokodaki, and so they head there next. Once they meet up with Urokodaki, the former water Hashira, Tanjiro talks with him. The only thing Urokodaki can really teach him are some basic sword movements, since Tanjiro already knows sun breathing, the selfless state, and the transparent world, making him nearly Hashira level, if not higher. After that, he officially becomes a demon slayer. Tanjiro trains under his dad, learning sun breathing and how to master the selfless state. He gets close to unlocking the transparent world with his father's help, but he still needs to awaken the Demon Slayer mark. After a couple of months of training, they head to the final selection, where they take down almost all the demons there. The hand demon is no problem for either of them, since they're both incredibly strong now. Nezuko stays back with Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. After returning to Urokodaki's place, they take Nezuko and set off on their journey, slaying demons along the way. Before long, they face the Drum Demon, a former lower moon, and meet Zenitsu and Inosuke. After defeating the Drum Demon, the group heads to Mount Natagumo, ready to take on Rui and the rest of his so-called family. With Inosuke, Tanjiro, and Tanjiro charging up the mountain while Zenitsu stays behind, the group eventually encounters the Spider Demon parents. Together, they take down both the Mother Demon and the massive Father Demon with ease. Now we get to the part where Nezuko never leaves her box, and Tanjiro and his dad go to face Rui. For them, it's hardly a challenge. Tanjiro alone could defeat Rui without much trouble. Afterward, we reach the Hashira meeting, where the big question comes up: why are they traveling with a demon? This time, the Wind Hashira, Sanemi, never lays a finger on Nezuko because Tanjiro is there to stop him. The two nearly start fighting until the master arrives and orders them to stand down. From that point on, the Demon Slayers are forced to accept Nezuko into their ranks. As for Tanjiro, his incredible skill earns him the title of the Sun-Breathing Hashira. Because he defeated Lower Moon 5, Tanjiro was officially recognized as the Sun-Breathing Hashira. Tanjiro naturally became the Suguko, apprentice of his father, now serving under the newly appointed Sun-Breathing Hashira. The Mugen Train arc didn't have to feature Rengoku. It could have been any Hashira assigned to the mission. So, let's put the brand new Sun Hashira, Tanjiro Kamado, to the test. This time, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Inosuke, and Zenitsu join him, essentially replacing Rengoku with Tanjiro's dad in this version of the story. So, they all board the Mugen Train, and the events play out much like they did with Rengoku. Everyone falls asleep under Enmu's spell, then wakes up to fight. When the train transforms, Tanjiro's dad, Zenitsu, and Nezuko work together to protect the passengers, keeping the train safe from the demon's attacks. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Inosuke head to the front of the train to face Lower Moon 1. With Tanjiro now far more skilled in sun breathing and overall combat, they manage to defeat him with relative ease. Now we get to the fight with Upper Moon 3, Akaza. This battle is much closer than in the original series, since Tanjiro is far stronger than Rengoku. This time, Tanjiro doesn't get stabbed, so he's able to assist his dad in trying to take Akaza down. By the time the sun begins to rise, Akaza's head is sliced off by Tanjiro. Believing him to be dead, Tanjiro and his father turn their backs, only for Akaza to reattach his head and flee into the forest to escape the sunlight. When they return from the Mugen train, there's both good news and bad news. The good news, they managed to defeat Lower Moon 1. The bad news, they failed to kill Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Tanjiro explained that Akaza regenerated his head, something he suspected might be unique to Upper Moons. But ultimately, Akaza only ran off because the sunlight was about to hit him. Now we've got the Entertainment District arc, but this time, Tanjiro's dad is out of the picture. The key difference is that Tanjiro is now much stronger, having mastered sun breathing, nearly mastered the transparent world, and fully unlocked the selfless state. Everything plays out mostly the same, except when Tanjiro first faces Daki, he actually manages to cut off her head, causing Gyutaro to appear earlier. Tengen and the others arrive quickly, and the fight against Upper Moon 6 begins. This time, Tengen doesn't lose his arm. In the heat of the battle, Tanjiro unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, and in that intense moment, Tengen unlocks his own mark as well. After the fight, Nezuko heals Tengen, and they head off. From here, events follow the original timeline. Tanjiro ends up in a coma for 3 months, and then we move into the Swordsmith Village arc. In this version, the arc plays out almost exactly the same as in the original series, except Tanjiro is much stronger, so the battles are easier for him. Overall, the Swordsmith Village arc doesn't change much in this timeline, and now, since Nezuko has gained immunity to sunlight, they return, and this time, we get a Hashira training arc. Most of the Hashira already know about the Demon Slayer mark, so training goes smoothly. The key difference is that now we have the Sun Hashira, Tanjiro's dad, stepping in. It plays out almost exactly the same as before, but with the added intensity of training under a Sun Hashira. Meanwhile, Muzan still forms his plan to capture Nezuko. Kagaya is killed, and the Demon Slayers are all transported into the Infinity Castle, starting the Infinity Castle arc. So for the Upper Moon, one fight in this timeline will have Tanjiro Kamado, Sun Hashira, teaming up with Gyomei Himejima, Stone Hashira, Muichiro Tokito, Mist Hashira, Sanemi Shinazugawa, Wind Hashira, and Genya Shinazugawa. For the Upper Moon 2 Doma fight in this timeline, the team would be Shinobu Kocho, Insect Hashira, Kanao, Inosuke, and Tengen Uzui Sound Hashira. That squad has both speed and poison on their side, plus some serious unpredictability with Inosuke and Kanao working together. For Upper Moon 3, Akaza, it stays the same. Tanjiro Kamado and Giyu Tomioka versus Akaza. Now, we get to the fight with Upper Moon 3 Akaza. This one basically ends the same way. Tanjiro uses the selfless state to kill Akaza. Now let's get into the Upper Moon 2 fight. In the Upper Moon 2 fight with Doma, Tengen is there, so Shinobu doesn't die. Together, with 2 Hashira, Kanao, and Inosuke, they overwhelm him. Eventually, they manage to get the job done, killing Doma, and this time, no one has to die in the process. Now we get to one of my favorite fights in this video, Kokushibo, Upper Moon 1 versus all the Hashira and Genya. But this time, this fight goes a lot easier now that Tanjiro's dad is in the mix, with Gyomei, Sanemi, and Muichiro helping out, and Tanjiro's dad being almost on Yoriichi's level. They're able to defeat Kokushibo without too much trouble. Now, for the side battles, Zenitsu versus Kaigaku doesn't last long, ending quickly in Zenitsu's victory. Nakime faces off against Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro, but before the fight can truly finish, Muzan kills Nakime himself. With her gone, everyone is teleported out of the Infinity Castle, marking the start of the Sunrise Countdown arc. Muzan gets taken down much faster this time, thanks to Tanjiro and Tanjiro both fully mastering sun breathing. With their combined power, along with the other Hashira, nobody dies in this battle. Shinobu is still alive, and even Obanai survives. All of this is because of Tanjiro present. In the end, Tanjiro doesn't turn into a demon, and Muzan is finally defeated once and for all. Mitsuri and Obanai get to live long, happy lives together, finally able to be a couple without the looming threat of demons. Shinobu also survives in this timeline, and she and Giyu eventually become a couple as well, living out their days in peace. Now, if you guys want to see, what if Nezuko became a demon slayer with Tanjiro full timeline? What if Akaza started eating women? In this video, we're going to go over the main story and look at how things would change, including what Upper Moon rank Akaza might reach if he actually ate women. So, let's get right into it. I don't want to start this one the same way we usually do, by just going from the beginning. So, of course, Tanjiro knows water breathing. He passes the final selection, and he fights Rui during the Mount Natagumo arc and all of that. But this story isn't really about Tanjiro. Tanjiro. It's about Akaza. Even without fully remembering his fiancée, Akaza still refused to eat women. So for this what if, I have to change that. If you've watched my What If Tanjiro Was a Demon, you'll remember I said Muzan would erase all of Tanjiro's memories because he was just too kind. The same thing happens here with Akaza. Muzan erases even more of Akaza's memories, twisting him into someone who actually eats women. And by doing that, he becomes way stronger. Now, this is the part everyone wants to see. Akaza versus Doma. Normally, Doma is way stronger than Akaza because he eats women. And in Demon Slayer, women are considered the best type of meat for demons. It's basically like the Wagyu beef of demon food. That's why Doma is usually faster, stronger, and more powerful than Akaza. But here's the thing. Doma himself admitted that Akaza was an upper moon before he was.
Look, he's just angsty, that's all. Probably because I became a demon after him.
Since Doma hadn't been a demon as long, Akaza is already in the upper ranks, and when Doma finally rises up and challenges him to a blood battle, things play out differently, because this time, Akaza eats women too, making him way stronger than before. Doma doesn't stand a chance. Akaza tears through Doma's ice Buddhas and completely overwhelms him. Not only is Akaza stronger from eating women, but he's also been a demon for much longer, giving him the edge to completely destroy Doma. And here's something I've always wondered. If anyone has theories about this, drop them in the comments. Why didn't Muzan just do that to Akaza in the first place? Akaza was one of Muzan's favorite demons. He relied on him the most when it came to hunting down enemies or carrying out his orders. Also, quick fact for you guys. A lot of people think Akaza purposely went to the Mugen Train arc, but that's not true. He never actually meant to be there. What really happened was that Akaza was traveling through the woods looking for the blue spider lily. The train had already derailed and crashed, and that's when he stumbled across Rengoku. So if the train had stayed on course and reached its destination, Akaza would have never been there at all. So going back to the what if, this is why it's so strange Muzan never wiped Akaza's memories in the original story. If he had, Akaza could have been far stronger than Doma, but instead, Muzan kept Doma around, even though he disliked him, just because Doma was a ridiculously strong demon. So at this point, Akaza is Upper Moon 2, and Doma is Upper Moon 3. Muzan wouldn't kill Doma. He's still insanely powerful, even if he isn't one of Muzan's favorites. Now we get to the fight everyone would want to see. Akaza being arrogant enough to go up against Kokushibo. Personally, I don't think Akaza could beat Kokushibo. Kokushibo is just on another level, but I also don't think Kokushibo would kill him, because even in the original timeline, he didn't. Akaza still had potential to grow stronger, and that's why Kokushibo let him live. Still, in this version, with Akaza eating women and being much stronger, he might actually stand a chance. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If Akaza ate women, who wins, Kokushibo or Akaza? Now, moving forward in the timeline, the next major time we see Akaza is during the Mugen Train arc. So let's get into that. So, in the original timeline, Akaza shows up on the Mugen Train. Like I already explained, he really just stumbled onto it by accident. A lot of people think Akaza was going all out against Rengoku, but that's not true. Rengoku was incredible. He held his own against an Upper Moon demon almost until sunrise. Rengoku is one of my favorite characters, and yeah, he's insanely strong. But the truth is, Akaza was toying with him. The only time Akaza actually got serious was when Rengoku grabbed onto him and held him in place until the sun was about to rise. That's when Akaza tore off Rengoku's arms and escaped into the woods. Now, in this what-if scenario, things play out differently. Akaza is stronger because he eats women. Instead of stalling and dragging the fight out, when Rengoku has him pinned near sunrise, Akaza just takes him seriously right away. He quickly kills Rengoku on the spot and escapes before the sun comes up. And with that, let's move on to the next time we see Akaza. The next time we see Akaza is in the Infinity Castle arc, when he goes up against Tanjiro and Giyu. This fight would be way harder than in the original, because now Akaza is insanely strong. He's fought plenty of Water Hashira over the years, so he already knows most of Giyu's techniques. The only move he hasn't seen is Giyu's 11th form, Dead Calm, since Giyu created that himself. In this timeline, Tanjiro and Giyu would probably need backup. Without it, Giyu might actually die. Akaza is just too strong. After toying with him for a while, he'd eventually land a killing blow. The only way I could see Giyu surviving is if another Hashira joined in, maybe Obanai or Mitsuri, since in the original timeline, they were freed up after Nakime, the Biwa-playing demon who controls the Infinity Castle, was defeated. But if Giyu goes into that fight without another Hashira at his side, he's definitely dying here. Akaza would eventually punch straight through his heart. Tanjiro might still clutch it out by using Transparent World to hide his presence and land a finishing blow, but even then, it's questionable. Both Tanjiro and Giyu could easily die in this version, so that's mainly how Akaza gets defeated, and honestly, that's the biggest change that would reshape the whole timeline. Most things would still play out the same, but the major difference is Akaza defeating Doma, and in the end, just like in the original, Akaza is finally reunited with his fiancée. Before I wrap this up, I've got got one question for you guys. Why don't you like my Kaiju number 8 videos? I put a lot of work into them, and while it's not the same as Demon Slayer, it's also a shorter, action-packed story with similar energy. So if you haven't already, check out my Kaiju number 8 videos and let me know if you want me to make more content on it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed What If Tanjiro Activated the Demon Slayer? Mark in episode 1. So let's jump right into this video. We're starting from the very beginning. Tanjiro heads out to sell coal, leaving his family behind for the night. On his way back, he's stopped by an old man who warns him that demons roam the mountains at night, convincing him to stay over until morning. When Tanjiro finally returns home, tragedy strikes. His entire family has been massacred. The only survivor is his sister, Nezuko, but she's been turned into a demon. As Tanjiro struggles to process this, Giyu Tomioka appears. Just like in the original timeline, they clash. But this time, everything is different. In this version of the story, Tanjiro is born with the Demon Slayer mark, the same kind his father had, and similar to Yoriichi's. This isn't the kind of mark that shortens your lifespan to 25. Instead, it's a hereditary mark, granting him all the enhanced abilities: the transparent world, boosted strength, speed, and heightened instincts right from the start. So, even though Tanjiro was born with the Demon Slayer mark, this is still weak Tanjiro. At this point, he doesn't know any breathing styles. The only things he's ever done are chopping wood and hauling coal. He has no real combat experience, so when he first clashes with Giyu, he still loses. But Giyu notices something strange. Tanjiro is clearly stronger than an ordinary person, even though he has no training. He doesn't know it yet, but the Demon Slayer mark is giving him enhanced strength and instincts. Still, nobody understands what it really means at this point. From there, the story moves on like the original. Giyu sends him to train under Sakonji Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. Tanjiro learns water breathing, but here's the catch. Because of his black blade and Demon Slayer mark, water breathing is a terrible fit for him. After Tanjiro finishes his water breathing training, he heads to the final selection. Because of his Demon Slayer mark, he already has access to the transparent world and all its benefits, so he cuts through the demons fairly easily. Next comes the arc where Muzan is first revealed, and let me just clear this up. People always ask what happens when Tanjiro meets Muzan for the first time. Honestly, nothing really changes here. The only difference is that with the transparent world, Tanjiro can now see Muzan's 5 hearts and everything inside him, but that doesn't matter in this moment. Tanjiro still can't fight him. There are too many people around, and it would be impossible to battle Muzan in that crowded place. If we tried to make him fight right there, it'd just turn into a bad what if. So the story continues the same way as the original timeline. Now let's get into the Drum Demon arc. I don't know if that's the exact name, but this is the part where we meet Inosuke and Zenitsu. Tanjiro ends up fighting the Drum Demon, but since he already has the Demon Slayer mark, the fight goes by much easier. With his boosted speed, strength, and the transparent world, Tanjiro takes him down without too much struggle. After that, we move forward into the mountain with Rui, the Lower Moon 5. Now Zenitsu stays back because he's scared, but later he ends up facing the Spider Demon. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Inosuke run ahead and help the other Demon Slayers defeat the Mother Demon. After that comes the Dad Demon. This time, they have a way better chance. Tanjiro is able to see right through him with the Demon Slayer mark and the transparent world, realizing that the Dad isn't really a true demon. He's controlled by Rui's threads. That means cutting off his head won't kill him. With that knowledge, they finish the fight much quicker, since the Dad Demon's raw power doesn't work on Tanjiro the same way. After that, Inosuke heads off on his own, and they split up. Tanjiro ends up facing Rui alongside Nezuko, setting the stage for their battle against the Lower Moon 5. This time, Tanjiro is much stronger, so Rui actually takes him more seriously. At first, Rui is still confident and doesn't see him as much of a threat, but that quickly changes once Tanjiro begins using Hinokami Kagura, sun breathing. With the combination of sun breathing and the Demon Slayer mark, Rui is completely overwhelmed. Tanjiro dominates the fight, and unlike the original timeline, Rui is killed directly by Tanjiro's blade. When Giyu arrives, he doesn't need to step in or save him. Lower Moon 5 is already defeated, and honestly, the reason why the original creator probably had Giyu land that kill was because defeating a Lower Moon demon is often seen as one of the requirements to become a Hashira, but here, it doesn't matter. Even though Tanjiro has the power and the mark, he's too humble to accept the position. He admits he's still not strong enough to be a Hashira, and to be fair, he's really not there yet. Now let's get into the Hashira meeting. The big question is, why is Tanjiro traveling with a demon? This time, when they hold him down, Sanemi tries to stab Nezuko, but that never happens. Instead, Sanemi underestimates Tanjiro, and Tanjiro lands more than just a headbutt. They actually start fighting until the Master shows up. The Master explains that Nezuko is under our ranks with Giyu Tomioka, the former water Hashira. Urokodaki also stands up for them, so Nezuko is officially accepted into their ranks. Now, let's move on to the Mugen Train arc with Rengoku, and now they go on the Mugen Train with Zenitsu, Inosuke, Nezuko, and Rengoku. They all board together. They fall asleep from Enmu's trap, wake up again, and then Rengoku starts covering the train with Zenitsu and Nezuko. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Inosuke head to the front of the train to defeat Lower Moon 1, Enmu. This time, it's way easier for them to find his neck, because Tanjiro has the transparent whirl. He can see through everything and pinpoint the exact spot for him and Inosuke to slice. They defeat Enmu, and Tanjiro doesn't get stabbed. After that, they try to help Rengoku, but Rengoku tells them to stop because he'd only slow them down. Sadly, Rengoku still dies to Akaza. They return home, mourn his death, train again, and then move on to the Entertainment District arc with Tengen Uzui. So, they go into the Entertainment District arc, and everything basically happens the same until Tanjiro fights Daki. This time, Tanjiro actually manages to cut off her head, but then the real problem shows up. Gyutaro, the true Upper Moon 6. Tengen jumps in to help Tanjiro, while Inosuke and Zenitsu take on Daki. Since Tanjiro already has the Demon Slayer mark, Tengen can awaken his in the middle of the fight too. With that boost, the battle goes way easier for them. Tengen never loses his arm this time, and they finish the fight much faster. Now, some people might say Tengen would still retire after this battle, but think about it. Would he really retire when the final fight with Muzan is still coming? Still, since a lot of people want it that way, let's just say he does retire after the Entertainment District arc and goes to live with his wives. But he does come back later for the Hashira training arc. Now we got the Swordsmith Village arc. Tanjiro goes there because his sword is chipped, and he hasn't gotten a new one in a month. After waking up from his coma, he heads to the village and meets Mitsuri and Muichiro. After all that, Upper Moon 4 shows up and the fighting begins. Muichiro gets blasted away to go fight Upper Moon 5. This time, Tanjiro is way stronger since he has the Demon Slayer mark. Nezuko gives him the red blade, and now he's more trained with Hinokami Kagura, which is sun breathing. With all that, he blows through the clones of Upper Moon 4 and goes straight for the main body. Meanwhile, Muichiro's fight plays out basically the same as the anime. He unlocks his Demon Slayer mark, defeats Upper Moon 5, and wins. Afterward, he gives Tanjiro his new sword to finish the battle. Then, Mitsuri arrives at the village to help Tanjiro. She holds off one of the fake bodies, while Tanjiro goes for the real one. From here, it basically happens the same as the original timeline, only Tanjiro is way stronger and can see everything with the transparent world. Now we move into the Hashira training arc. Now the Hashira training arc goes totally different, because Tanjiro already knows the Demon Slayer mark. At this point, we got 3 people who really understand it. 2 Hashira and 1 retired Hashira. Mitsuri doesn't really know much about it, but Mushiro knows absolutely everything. How to control your temperature, how to awaken it, how emotions tie into it, and all that. Then we got Tengen. He adds his own input, especially since Tanjiro has been living with the Demon Slayer mark since birth. So instead of just training, Tanjiro starts teaching people how to unlock it too. One of his main goals here is figuring out how to evolve his mark into something greater, stretching across his forehead, something even stronger. And then there's Gyome. Gyome is actually a huge help because his training focuses on channeling emotions into the Demon Slayer mark. That balance between Muichiro's technical mastery, Tengen's experience, and Gyome's emotional strength gives the core the best possible foundation before the final battle. But now, Muzan makes his move. He wipes out the Ubuyashiki family and then activates his trap, pulling everyone into the Infinity Castle. Now we move into the Infinity Castle arc. And now this time, all the fights are basically the same, but Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza, Upper Moon 3 Doma versus Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke Kokushibo versus Gyome, Genya, Muichiro, and Sanemi. So let's go over Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza. And now this fight goes super fast since Tanjiro has the transparent world and the selfless state. He uses that to kill Akaza way sooner than in the original timeline, with Giyu holding him off until Tanjiro lands the final blow. Tanjiro slices off Akaza's head, and Akaza accepts his fate, reuniting with his wife as they go to hell together. Now, this is where the timeline changes. In the original, the Ubuyashiki head of the family said that they could have sent Tanjiro and Giyu to the Upper Moon 1 battle, but thought they had done enough already. This time though, Muichiro is just starting his fight with Upper Moon 1, so Tanjiro and Giyu actually show up since they finish Akaza much faster. They step in to help Muichiro, and then Gyome and Genya arrive as well. With all of them fighting together, this time, Muichiro and Genya survive. The battle is still brutal, but it goes smoother, and Tanjiro helps bring closure to Kokushibo, making him realize he was wrong all along, and that he should have been proud of his younger brother. So, with the Upper Moon 1 fight done, now it's time to move on to Upper Moon 2, Doma. Now the fight with Doma basically ends the same since no one is there to help Shinobu. She still dies, and Kanao and Inosuke finish Doma off using her poison. Next are the side battles. Zenitsu goes up against Kaigaku and defeats him, just like before. Then we have Nakime, the Biwa woman, who fights against Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro, the kind demon who paints portraits of Tamayo. Together they defeat Nakime and take control of the Infinity Castle, at least until Muzan kills her. With all of that done, we now move into the Sundown Countdown arc. Let's get into it. Now with Tanjiro using the Demon Slayer mark, knowing more about sun breathing, the transparent world, and the selfless state, he actually destroys Muzan in this timeline. After all the Hashira get caught in that huge blast, Tanjiro and Obanai start fighting him and manage to defeat him a little faster than in the original timeline, but not by much. Most of the Hashira die, and the only ones who survive are Muichiro, Giyu, and Sanemi. After the battle, the rest of the Hashira finally perish. The only real happy ending is that Muichiro gets to live longer past age 25, even though he still has the Demon Slayer mark. In the end, they all live happily. And YouTube wants you to click this video because it's the best one you're gonna watch today. What if Tanjiro and Nezuko became demons? So let's get right into the video. Instead of Tanjiro going out to sell coal, he plans to do it tomorrow, so he never leaves the house. Muzan comes in, kills his whole family, and tries to inject blood into them. It doesn't work on most of them, and Muzan doesn't know. In the original timeline, Muzan didn't even realize Nezuko was turning into a demon, but this time, Tanjiro reacts to the blood way faster than Nezuko. Muzan waits for him to start changing, and then Nezuko also begins turning into a demon. So now, both of them are becoming demons. Muzan asks about the blue spider lily, because that's the whole reason he came there in the first place. Tanjiro doesn't know, and Muzan looks through his memories. Still nothing. But when he checks Nezuko's memories, he sees a glimpse of it, because her mother once showed it to her when she was little. From Tanjiro's memories, Muzan also sees the Hinokami Kagura, or sun breathing, and right away, he realizes this family can actually use sun breathing. Quick fun fact, Tanjiro's family is not descended from Yoriichi. Yoriichi was just best friends with their ancestor. The Kamado family just practiced sun breathing for so long that their bodies naturally adjusted to it over generations. That's why they could use it. Back to the story. Muzan takes Tanjiro and Nezuko to the Infinity Castle, injects them with even more blood, and sends them on rampages. They start eating humans non-stop and keep getting stronger and stronger. After a couple of years of them getting way stronger, Tanjiro and Nezuko go into a blood battle with Daki and Gyutaro. And honestly, they just go non-stop winning. Their blood demon arts are too special. Unlike Gyutaro and Daki, who are basically one demon with Gyutaro living inside Daki, Tanjiro and Nezuko are different. They're their own type of demons, but Muzan still counts them as one upper moon. Nezuko's blood demon art is the big difference here. Instead of hurting demons, her flames actually boost them, and that helps Tanjiro's power skyrocket. Meanwhile, Tanjiro's blood demon art is tied to his sun breathing. Muzan gives him a sword to test him, erases most of his memories since Tanjiro is way too nice to be a killer, and leaves only the memory of the Hinokami Kagura. When Tanjiro performs sun breathing now, flames actually burst out of the techniques. It's kind of like how Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, can create crescent moon blades with his blood demon art. But for Tanjiro, it's pure fire, and he can fully control it. Together, with Nezuko boosting him and Tanjiro's fiery sun breathing, they defeat Upper Moon 6, Gyutaro and Daki, in their blood battle, and after that, they absorb them both, becoming even stronger. Right after Tanjiro and Nezuko become the new Upper Moon 6, they go up against a Hashira, and let's say that Hashira is Tengen Uzui. Now, this fight is way different, because it doesn't matter that Tengen is immune to poison. Tanjiro and Nezuko aren't like Gyutaro and Daki. Their power is pure strength, and they work as a perfect team. Tengen can't hold them off. Without any backup, he ends up dying in the process. So in this timeline, Demon Tanjiro and Nezuko kill Tengen Uzui, marking a huge turning point for the Hashira. It's basically as important as Rengoku's death in the original story. And speaking of that, Rengoku is already gone in this version, because he had to protect the Mugen train by himself, and even managed to kill Akaza after, but still lost his life. So now the Hashira are dropping like flies. After that, Tanjiro and Nezuko move on to a blood battle with Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. But in this fight, the four emotions don't stand a chance. Tanjiro slices through them one by one with his sun breathing techniques, while Nezuko boosts him with her flames. Together, they burn through the clones and take down the main body with ease. Tanjiro finishes it off by decapitating Hantengu with his Nichirin sword. Right after they kill Hantengu, Tanjiro and Nezuko absorb him, which makes them even stronger. Their power keeps rising, and with that boost of ego, they set their sights higher. They want to climb to Upper Moon 3, which means they'd have to take Akaza's spot. Akaza agrees to fight them, and he completely dominates. Tanjiro and Nezuko just aren't far enough along as demons yet. They've only had a couple years to get used to their blood demon arts, and their skills are still rough. On top of
that, Tanjiro's sun breathing isn't fully polished. Back when he practiced it at home, he never truly mastered it, so in this fight, they get completely overwhelmed. Before Akaza can finish them off and absorb them, Tanjiro has a surge of memories, his family, trying to pull him back toward the light. He remembers his father's words, the lesson about the selfless state, a way to fight with unlimited power and flawless technique. That pushes him forward. With those memories, Tanjiro gets a sudden boost, his strength spikes, his technique sharpens, and together with Nezuko, they turn the fight around and kill Akaza.
Keep their memories a secret from Muzan.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a stretch, because Muzan can technically look through their memories, but realistically, Muzan wouldn't even care to check too deeply. He'd just assume Tanjiro barely pulled it off at the last moment. So now Tanjiro and Nezuko rise up to the rank of Upper Moon 3. Not long after, Muzan sends them on another mission. Their target this time is a Hashira. The lead they follow takes them straight to Gyomei, the stone Hashira, the strongest of them all. Now, with Tanjiro and Nezuko becoming Upper Moon 3, things shift a lot. Gyomei could never really beat Akaza on his own. Akaza was just too much for him. But now, with Tanjiro and Nezuko in Akaza's place, the fight is even crazier. Gyomei actually puts up a much bigger fight against them because of his unique weapons. With his chain and axe, he can swing both sides at once, and if he connects just right, he could potentially decapitate both of them in a single strike. So, the battle is intense. During the fight, Tanjiro keeps getting flashbacks, memories of his parents, of Nezuko as a human. All of it starts rushing back. And then, another Hashira shows up. Let's say it's Muichiro, the Mist Hashira, because he was sent on the same mission as Gyomei. Together, they push Tanjiro and Nezuko to their limits. But here's the twist. While on the brink of death, with Gyomei and Muichiro pressing them, Tanjiro and Nezuko's memories break through Muzan's control. Their humanity starts coming back, even though their bodies are still demons. Just when it looks like the Hashira are about to finish them off, the sun rises. The Hashira back off, thinking Tanjiro and Nezuko are about to be burned alive, but instead, they become immune to sunlight. The Hashira are too battered and broken to keep fighting, and they can only watch as Tanjiro and Nezuko escape. Now, instead of going back to the Infinity Castle, Tanjiro and Nezuko completely abandon Muzan. Muzan, of course, realizes what happened, and now he's furious because they've broken free from his control and hold the ultimate secret, demons who can conquer the sun. I know this timeline's a bit of a stretch, but it's the only way it really works out.
So, now Tanjiro and Nezuko meet Tamayo, the good demon in Demon Slayer. And you know how the master, the Ubuyashiki family, already knows about her, so they stay with her for the time being, trying to evade Muzan the best they can. When they finally meet the master, here's the problem. The Hashira would want to kill Tanjiro and Nezuko on the spot. Remember, they killed Tengen and badly injured both Muichiro and Gyomei. So of course, the Hashira wouldn't trust them at all. But the master steps in and tells them no. Tanjiro and Nezuko are valid allies now. Their memories were erased, they weren't in control, and now they're truly on the Demon Slayer Corps' side. From here, they start helping prepare for the Infinity Castle battle. And by this point, the Upper Moons are looking a lot different. Upper Moon 6 is now Kaigaku, Zenitsu's rival. The Biwa woman has replaced Hantengu as Upper Moon 4, and there's no real Upper Moon 3 anymore. So when the Infinity Castle arc begins, Muzan tries to capture Tanjiro and Nezuko because he wants to figure out their secret to conquering the sun. All the Hashira, along with Tanjiro and Nezuko, are thrown into the castle after the Ubuyashiki family head dies. Matchups in this timeline: Tanjiro fights Upper Moon, one Kokushibo alongside Gyomei, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Genya. Over the fight, Gyomei and Muichiro gain respect for Tanjiro, seeing him battle right at their side and pushing Kokushibo back with sun breathing. Nezuko fights Doma alongside Shinobu, Kanao, and Inosuke. Shinobu still doesn't like that Nezuko's a demon, but with Nezuko's help boosting the group, they actually have a better shot, and Shinobu might even survive in this timeline. Upper Moon 5. Gyoko is left to Gyu, and with his Demon Slayer mark, he solos him just like Muichiro did in the original timeline. Upper Moon 6 Kaigaku is defeated by Zenitsu as always, completing his big moment. Honestly, the only casualty I could still see here is Shinobu, because her whole main plan with the Wisteria poison against Doma is still risky. Then comes the final battle, the Sunrise Countdown arc. Tanjiro uses sun breathing, the selfless state, and his demon regeneration together. With Nezuko boosting him even further with her blood powers, he can strike Muzan endlessly. With all the Hashira still alive and backing them, Muzan gets overwhelmed way faster in this timeline. And here's the biggest change. Tanjiro never becomes the Demon King. He was already free from Muzan's control, so when they inject him with the human serum, he and Nezuko both return to humans. They survive, but it's bittersweet because they'll always have to live with the fact that during their time time as demons, they killed Tengen Uzui. After the battle, Muichiro survives thanks to Tanjiro's sun breathing backing him up, but with the Demon Slayer mark curse, he'll only live until 25. That gives him around 11 more years to live out a good life. Gyomei dies after that night because he already had the mark and was past 25. Just like Kokushibo said, he wouldn't last. Shinobu still dies from her plan against Doma. Mitsuri and Obanai both survive, and in this version, they actually get to complete their love story because Tanjiro was there to help them. Everyone else, Sanemi, Giyu, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao, Nezuko, and Tanjiro, survives. So yeah, in this timeline, most of the Hashira actually live, with only Tengen, Shinobu, Gyomei, and Rengoku falling. This was a really tough what if to cover, because Muzan is so unpredictable, and the timeline shifts in crazy ways. What if Tanjiro was guided by Yoriichi instead of Sabito and Makomo? One of you guys actually commented this idea on one of my videos, and I thought it was really good. I can't find the name right now, so I'm sorry about that, but shout out to whoever suggested it. This isn't just going to cover the boulder training though. We're doing the entire story. In this what if, Yoriichi Tsugikuni guides Tanjiro every step of the way. Think of it like a Force Ghost from Star Wars. Yoriichi appears whenever Tanjiro is training or fighting, helping him grow into a true sun breather. So let's get right into the video. We basically start off the same way as the original story. Tanjiro goes out to sell coal, and on his way back, he's stopped by the old man who warns him about demons. The old man convinces him to stay the night. When Tanjiro returns the next morning, he finds his family slaughtered. Nezuko is the only one left, but she's turned into a demon. Tanjiro tries to help her, and that's when Giyu shows up, and everything from there plays out just like the original. So, we're not going to change anything at the very beginning. Instead, let's skip forward to the training with Sakonji Urokodaki, the former water Hashira, and this is where we first see Yoriichi Tsugikuni enter the story. Just like in the original timeline, Urokodaki leaves Tanjiro with the task of cutting the boulder before he can qualify for final selection. But this time, instead of Sabito and Makomo appearing to help him, it's Yoriichi Tsugikuni who shows up. Yoriichi trains Tanjiro directly, teaching him proper swordsmanship, refining his breathing, and even explaining the basics of sun breathing. Because of this, Tanjiro becomes way more powerful than in the original timeline and is able to slice the boulder much easier. Urokodaki is a little unsettled when Tanjiro explains that it was Yoriichi guiding him, since he doesn't fully understand what's happening. But either way, the results speak for themselves. Tanjiro now knows sun breathing far earlier than he should. In the original timeline, Tanjiro's first use of sun breathing was during the battle with Rui on Mount Natagumo against Lower Moon 5. But here, he's already learned it before final selection. This gives him a huge head start compared to the original story. So, Tanjiro goes through the final selection and clears out the demons pretty easily. Honestly, he could probably handle every demon in his area. The only one that gives him some trouble is the big hand demon, but with Yoriichi guiding him, and with sun breathing already in his arsenal, it's way easier than in the original timeline. From there, most of the early fights go the same, until we reach that big city encounter with Muzan. And just like in the original, Tanjiro can't do anything here. Muzan immediately creates a new demon in the middle of the crowd, and with so many people around and so many buildings, Tanjiro isn't strong enough yet to even try and fight him. The real turning point comes with Rui, the Lower Moon 5. In the original timeline, this was Tanjiro's first time using sun breathing, but now, with Yoriichi guiding him through every demon battle up until this point, the drum demon, the swamp demon, all of them, Tanjiro is way more skilled. During Rui's fight, with Nezuko trapped in his webs and Tanjiro on the brink of death, everything lines up for him to finally unlock the Demon Slayer mark. With the mark activated and his sun breathing techniques sharpened by Yoriichi's training, Tanjiro slices Rui's head off almost instantly. Right after Rui's defeat, Tanjiro is brought into the Hashira meeting. Just like in the original, the Hashira question why he's traveling with a demon. Things play out the same, up until the point where Sanemi tries to hurt Nezuko, but this time, it doesn't go that way. Tanjiro is way stronger now, and instead of just landing that one famous headbutt, he actually fights back. Even without being able to activate his Demon Slayer mark at will, his training with Yoriichi makes him strong enough to hold his own against Sanemi until Kagaya, the master, arrives. Once Kagaya shows up, he confirms that Giyu and Urokodaki vouched for Tanjiro and Nezuko, and the two are officially accepted into the Corps. And with that, we move right into the Mugen Train arc, which is going to be very interesting in this timeline. With Rengoku, they all board the train, and they all fall under Enmu's spell, Lower Moon 1's dream. But this time, Yoriichi guides Tanjiro out of the dream, while most of the others still get woken up by Nezuko. They all split up, with Tanjiro and Inosuke going after Enmu, Lower Moon 1, while Rengoku, Zenitsu, and Nezuko protect the train. After that, Tanjiro finishes Enmu off using his sun breathing, powered up with Yoriichi's help. With that boost, they kill Enmu way faster. The train still derails, just like in the original, and now we see Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Now this time, Tanjiro does not get stabbed, because he's way more experienced experienced and senses it before it even happens. So he joins Rengoku in fighting Akaza. He's actually a huge help here, because after fighting Lower Moon 1 and now clashing with Akaza, Tanjiro activated his Demon Slayer mark. With it activated, he and Rengoku go all in against Akaza. Inosuke isn't strong enough to join in, and Zenitsu and Nezuko are still passed out, so it's just the two of them holding the line. Tanjiro is still a little weaker than Rengoku, but he's a solid support in the fight. During the battle, Tanjiro has a flashback, Yoriichi teaching him that to defeat this enemy, he needs to use the selfless state. Then another memory hits. His father fighting the bear with a rusty axe, showing no battle intent. That's exactly what Yoriichi told him to do. And in this timeline, Tanjiro finally activates the selfless state. With it, he cuts off Akaza's head. Now, if you've seen the new Demon Slayer movie, you know why I'm going into more detail here. The selfless state was shown beautifully on the big screen, and that's why I wanted to really focus on it in this What If. So in this version, Tanjiro activated his Demon Slayer mark, then used the selfless state to kill Akaza. Akaza, realizing everything as he's close to death, delivers the final blow to himself, punching through his own body, and finally reunites with his wife in the afterlife. Now Tanjiro has the Demon Slayer mark and the selfless state. The only thing he really needs now is full mastery of the transparent world. He's seen glimpses of it for a quick second, but he hasn't mastered it yet. At least now, he knows how to activate his Demon Slayer mark at will. When he returns, Tanjiro explains everything to the Hashira, how the mark is activated, what conditions are needed, and how to push past limits to reach it. Now we move into the Entertainment District arc with Tengen. Let's skip past all the dialogue of scouting and hunting for demons, straight into the fight. When Tanjiro faces Daki, it's not even close. Tanjiro basically mop-wops her, defeating her super quick and super easy. He never gets pushed to the point of rage, his eyes never fill with blood, he just cuts her down fast. Then comes the real Upper Moon 6, Gyutaro. With both him and Daki together, the fight would normally drag out, but in this timeline, Tanjiro's selfless state makes him incredibly powerful. He can hold his own against Gyutaro until Tengen joins the battle. Once Tengen's in, it's basically wraps. Remember, Tengen is immune to poison, which takes away Gyutaro's biggest advantage. With Tanjiro's support, they kill Gyutaro and Daki way faster. Because of this, Tengen never loses his arm, and with Nezuko's help healing the poison, both Tanjiro and Tengen are fine by the end. This makes the Entertainment District arc way quicker and way easier. And most importantly, Tengen doesn't retire in this timeline. He stays active, which means he's still there for the final battles too. Now let's get into the Swordsmith Village arc. In this timeline, Tanjiro never actually gets a brand new sword, because he's such a skilled swordsman now that he doesn't break his blade. But after so many battles and constant training, his sword is definitely worn down, so he travels to the Swordsmith Village anyway after the Entertainment District arc. Everything up to this point plays out pretty much the same as the original timeline. But then we reach the big battle, Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. This fight brings in Muichiro Tokito, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya going up against him. So, Tokito and Tanjiro are basically on the same level here, though Tanjiro is probably just a little bit stronger. At this point, Tanjiro is basically Hashira level, because with the selfless state, the Demon Slayer mark, and sun breathing, he's almost on Yoriichi's level. The only thing he's missing is more mastery over sun breathing and the transparent world. Either way, he's a huge help in this battle. Nezuko still gives him the red blade, and Tokito never gets blasted away, because Tanjiro is so fast and aware. He reacts instantly and grabs Tokito before it happens. Now back to the red blade. Tanjiro could make it red on his own, just by activating the mark and gripping his sword hard. But with Nezuko's blood demon art added on top, it's way more effective, since her flames hurt demons even more. Tanjiro is strong enough to fight all 4 of Hantengu's emotion clones by himself. When those 4 merge into the giant version, Tokito takes that one on, while Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya go after the main body. Meanwhile, Mitsuri shows up, and this time, she ends up fighting Upper Moon 5, Gyoko. So, Mitsuri basically does everything she did in the original timeline at first. She defeats all of Upper Moon 5, Gyoko's little fish minions, and saves the village chief. But in this timeline, since Muichiro is already busy fighting Upper Moon 4, Mitsuri is the one who goes up against Gyoko directly. This time, she awakens her Demon Slayer mark while fighting him, and unlike the original, she doesn't get trapped in the water prison, since most of the people are already out of danger. She's able to keep her distance with her longsword and avoid being sealed. She comes in time to save the little kid and the swordsmiths, and from there, she pretty much defeats Gyoko, the same way Muichiro did in the original story. With Upper Moon 5 taken care of, we switch back to the Upper Moon 4 battle. Mitsuri throws Tanjiro his brand new sword, and Tanjiro uses it to cut off Hantengu's main body's head. Nezuko still becomes immune to sunlight in this timeline, meaning she can walk freely under the sun, and that's exactly what triggers Muzan's plan to go after her. And with that, we move into the Hashira training arc. It's basically the same, but this time, we've got both Rengoku and Tengen still active. Tengen was already around in the original, but in this timeline, he never retired, so now he's back in the mix. Also, Tanjiro already knows how to activate the Demon Slayer mark at will, and during training, he helps the other Hashira figure it out too. So by the end of this arc, almost all of them are pushing their limits and unlocking their marks. From here, things move toward the final showdown. down. The head of the Ubuyashiki family sacrifices himself when Muzan comes for him, and Muzan takes his life. That sets everything into motion, and all of the Hashira rush in to fight Muzan. Once they clash, Muzan traps everyone inside the Infinity Castle, and this kicks off the Infinity Castle arc. Now let's break it down. Who's fighting who? So let's switch things up and start with the side battles. First, we've got Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. That one plays out the same as the original timeline, with Zenitsu unleashing his brand new 7th form. And if you've seen the new Demon Slayer movie, you got to see that in full animation. It looked incredible. Next, we move to the fight against Nakime, the Biwa demon. Yushiro is there interfering with her control, and meanwhile, Mitsuri and Obanai help him. Now let's get into the main Upper Moon battles. Remember, this is before Nakime dies, so her job is still to scatter the Hashira across the castle to stop them from all teaming up at once. For the Upper Moon 1 fight, we've got Tanjiro, Giyu, Sanemi, and Muchiro. With this lineup, the battle is brutal, but Tanjiro also receives guidance from Yoriichi during the fight. Tanjiro sees flashbacks of Yoriichi's past, learns the story of Kokushibo's jealousy, and truly understands his tragedy. After Kokushibo is defeated and his head is cut off, he chooses to end things himself, reflecting on his brother with sadness before finally dying. For the Upper Moon 2 fight, the lineup is Shinobu, Kanao, Inosuke, Rengoku, and Gyomei. Shinobu once said that defeating Doma would take the equivalent of 3 Hashira working together. Here, they've got more than enough. With Gyomei's raw power, Rengoku's speed, Giyu's defensive style, plus Kanao and Inosuke backing them up, Doma stands no chance. This time, Shinobu doesn't need to sacrifice herself. They overwhelm him and kill him outright. With the Upper Moons defeated, Muzan realizes Nakime has been compromised and kills her on the spot. That collapses the Infinity Castle and ejects everyone into the surface. From here, we head straight into the Sunrise Countdown arc. Now with Tanjiro almost on Yoriichi's level, after mastering the transparent world in the Upper Moon 1 fight and nearly perfecting sun breathing, Yoriichi's spirit guides him through the entire final battle with Muzan. With that guidance, Tanjiro is able to strike all of Muzan's 7 hearts at once. And since all the Hashira are still alive in this timeline, backing him up, the fight is way easier than in the original. Tanjiro never becomes Demon King Tanjiro here. It doesn't even get a chance to happen because Yoriichi is guiding him the whole way. So no Hashira die in this version, except for Gyomei. Like Kokushibo said, after unlocking the mark, he wouldn't live past this night since he was already over 25. Gyomei dies peacefully, reunited with his family and the children he once cared for. Meanwhile, the others live on. We get to see Mitsuri and Obanai's love story play out. Giyu and Shinobu's bond finally blossoms, my personal favorite. Muichiro lives, so his bloodline doesn't end. Same with Shinobu's bloodline. It carries on instead of dying with her like in the original. Overall, this creates a much happier ending for Demon Slayer. I really like how this what if turned. What if Demon Slayer had a happier ending? I wanted to make this video because I've seen a lot of people in my comments wishing that Demon Slayer had a happy ending. And while I already have other videos on my channel where I've made alternate endings where more characters survive, people still want to see an even better version, one where everything works out perfectly. So today, I'm challenging myself. How can I create a truly happy ending for Demon Slayer? The catch is, I can't reuse any of my previous what ifs. So no, what if Yoriichi was there? No, what if Kokushibo helped Tanjiro? None of that. This has to be a brand new scenario that leads to a happy ending. So let's get right into it. Right at the beginning of the story, Tanjiro goes to sell coal and leaves his family behind. On his way, the old man warns him about the dangers of demons in the mountains and convinces him to stay the night. When Tanjiro returns the next morning, he finds his family slaughtered, just like in the original timeline. The only survivor is Nezuko. Tanjiro takes Nezuko, and then Giyu Tomioka shows up. That whole scene plays out just like the original. From there, Tanjiro trains under Sakonji Urokodaki, the former water Hashira, preparing for the final selection. Everything up to that point unfolds exactly the same as in the original timeline. After the final selection, Tanjiro's journey plays out basically the same all through season 1. But things really start to change once we reach the Mugen Train arc. For a true happy ending, the most important thing here is that Rengoku survives. And to make that happen, we need backup on the train. We have 2 options. Send in a stronger Hashira who could actually handle Upper Moon 3, Akaza. That would mean someone like Giyu, Sanemi, or Gyomei. Or send another Hashira alongside Rengoku so he isn't fighting alone. I think the second option works best. So for this what if, we'll send Gyomei Himejima, the strongest Hashira, to join Rengoku on the Mugen Train. When the train battle begins, everyone falls asleep from Enmu's Blood Demon arc, but Nezuko wakes them up. From here, things play out differently. Instead of Zenitsu and Nezuko trying to protect the passengers with Rengoku, we've now got Gyomei and Rengoku holding the line. With those two together, they keep the entire train safe, while Tanjiro, Inosuke,
Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Nezuko head straight for Enmu, Lower Moon 1. That fight goes much smoother. The four of them cut through Enmu way faster, though the train still derails since his body has fused into it. And then, just like in the original, Akaza shows up. But here's the difference. This time, he takes things seriously from the very start, because Gyome, the strongest Hashira, is standing right there beside Rengoku. So instead of Rengoku fighting alone, we get Gyome and Rengoku teaming up against Upper Moon 3. With Upper Moon 3, Akaza fighting seriously from the very beginning. The battle becomes extremely dangerous for both Rengoku and Gyome. Any slip-up could mean instant death, because Akaza wouldn't hesitate to take advantage of an opening. The fight drags on until sunrise. Once Akaza senses the sun approaching, he retreats into the woods. Even with Gyome present, I don't think they'd be able to finish him off. Akaza is simply too fast and too strong. Some might argue that Gyome could stop him, but realistically, even he doesn't have the power to kill Akaza outright. Not in this situation. In the original timeline, Rengoku nearly held Akaza long enough for the sun to burn him. But the key difference here is that Akaza wouldn't risk stalling or toying around when Gyome is standing right beside Rengoku. Instead, he'd play it safe, avoid being pinned down, and escape before sunrise. So in this version, Akaza lives and retreats. Meanwhile, Rengoku and Gyome return to the Demon Slayer Corps and report everything that happened in their battle with Upper Moon 3. From here, the story shifts into the Entertainment District arc. We're going to keep the Entertainment District arc basically the same. Even if we saved Tengen's arm, even if he awakened the Demon Slayer mark, I still think he would retire. A lot of people in the comments say the same thing, because his wives made it clear that once they defeated an Upper Moon, he should leave the Demon Slayer Corps behind and live peacefully with them. Personally, I think Tengen might have come back for the very last battle if things had played out differently. But for this timeline, we'll leave it as is. So everything in the Entertainment District happens the same way. Tengen loses an arm, he's poisoned, but Nezuko heals him. The fight ends, just like in the original, and Tengen retires from the Corps.
So in the next two arcs, we basically keep everything happy. Nobody dies, the story moves forward smoothly, and all the Hashira are still alive. Even Rengoku in this timeline. The Swordsmith Village arc plays out almost the same as the original. Mitsuri and Muichiro still survive, and both of them awaken their Demon Slayer marks, giving the Corps a huge power-up. Then we move into the Hashira training arc. Of course, nobody dies here either. This arc is all about the Hashira pushing themselves beyond their limits and preparing for the final battles. Now the real challenge comes in the Infinity Castle arc. This is where we need to carefully hold everything together to make that perfect ending. We don't have Tengen anymore, since he's retired, but we do have Rengoku, who's been training for months. By this point, Rengoku is stronger than ever, and in this timeline, he even awakens his Demon Slayer mark. The goal here is simple, but tough. Make sure Shinobu survives her encounter with Doma, keep Genya alive, keep Muichiro alive, and finally, in the last battle, we need to ensure that most of the Hashira make it through. That's the foundation for creating the perfect happy ending. So hopefully, I don't forget any Hashira this time. I know in some of my past videos, I've left a few out by mistake. Let's break it down, fight by fight. Upper Moon 3, Akaza. In this timeline, everyone survives. Originally, Giyu fought Akaza alongside Tanjiro, but I think we can swap him out here. Instead, we'll put Rengoku in Akaza's fight. Here's why. Rengoku already faced Akaza in the Mugen Train arc and held his ground really well. That role fits him perfectly. So now we have Rengoku and Tanjiro versus Akaza. Tanjiro still unlocks his transparent world / selfless state, and just like in the original, Akaza ultimately brings about his own end. This way, Akaza is defeated, and both Rengoku and Tanjiro survive. Upper Moon 2, Doma, will send in Giyu Tomioka alongside Shinobu. This also works really well since the two of them share some chemistry in the story. On top of that, we'll keep the original characters who fought Doma, Inosuke and Kanao. With this team, Shinobu doesn't need to sacrifice herself. Here's why. Shinobu's poison continues to slow Doma down. Giyu is the third strongest Hashira, and with water breathing and his 11th form, Dead Calm, he's able to hold Doma back defensively. Inosuke adds unpredictable, reckless attacks that keep Doma pressured. Kanao's flower breathing and her enhanced eye technique give her deadly precision in battle. Shinobu once stated that to kill Doma, you'd need the equivalent of 3 Hashira-level fighters working together, and with this lineup, that requirement is easily met. Giyu and Shinobu are both Hashira, while Inosuke and Kanao together are strong enough to count as a third. So in this scenario, Doma is defeated and none of them die. Now comes the really tough one. Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo. So this time, I've got a solid idea for the Upper Moon 1 fight. In the original story, Muichiro was separated in the Infinity Castle and ended up facing Kokushibo first, while Genya was left watching helplessly as Muichiro nearly died. But in this timeline, things play out differently. When Muichiro is pulled into Kokushibo's room, Gyome reacts faster and goes with him instead of being delayed. Now, Muichiro and Gyome are together right from the start. This makes a huge difference. Gyome and Muichiro can cover each other and survive longer. With both of them pressing Kokushibo, Genya doesn't take the same life-threatening damage he did originally, since Kokushibo has his hands full with 2 Hashira-level fighters. Later, Sanemi arrives and joins the battle. At that point, it's essentially over for Kokushibo. The combined pressure from Gyomei, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Genya is too much, even for him. Kokushibo still has that emotional moment of recognizing his brother Yoriichi's ideals before the end, but instead of wiping out half the team, he falls after an exhausting battle. All of them, Gyomei, Muichiro, Sanemi, and Genya, are bloodied and battered, but alive. It's still an incredibly brutal fight, but with these changes, nobody dies here. So in this version, the Ubuyashiki family head still sends the Hashira and Tanjiro's group after Muzan, but to keep everyone alive and in better condition, I think the smartest move would be for them to group up first instead of rushing in one by one like in the original story. Now, let's go over the side fights real quick. Zenitsu versus Kaigaku still happens, and Zenitsu wins with his insanely fast thunder-breathing techniques. For Nakime, the Biwa demon, Mitsuri and Obanai team up and completely destroy her once they realize she's been manipulated by Yushiro. Here's where things change. Muzan realizes Nakime has been compromised and personally kills her. With Nakime dead, the Infinity Castle collapses, but this time, everyone is ejected before they can be trapped or crushed inside. That means all the Hashira survive the castle's collapse. Tanjiro isn't badly injured at this point either, so he can still fight at full strength. Kanao is also still in good shape, and the Hashira as a whole are much healthier going into the final battle. So now, instead of entering the fight against Muzan half dead and exhausted, the Demon Slayer Corps is at near full strength, with all of the Hashira alive and in fighting condition. I love Demon Slayer so much, and after watching interviews and reading facts about it, you can really see how the creator built the story. She was always willing to kill off characters, because she wanted fans to feel something deep. That's why so many characters died, and why the story hits as hard as it does. She even thought about killing Inosuke and Zenitsu early on, but in this timeline, we're making sure everyone survives. So moving into the final battle / sunrise countdown arc, things change drastically. Tanjiro is on the front lines, fighting with the transparent world and sun breathing, but this time, he has help from Shinobu, Muichiro, Rengoku, and all the other Hashira still alive. With Tamayo's poison already weakening Muzan, the fight goes much more smoothly. They still get blasted back, and some people lose limbs, just like Giyu in the original, but this time, nobody dies. With every Hashira still standing, plus Tanjiro never backing down, Muzan is overwhelmed much quicker. He doesn't even get the chance to turn Tanjiro into the Demon King, because the Slayers drag him into the sunlight and finish the fight before he can act. Now, here's the tricky part. The Demon Slayer Mark Curse. Normally, those who awaken it die by age 25. That would mean Gyomei and others would soon perish. But for this happy ending, we'll go with one of the fan theories out there. The curse of the mark is lifted once Muzan is defeated. It's a stretch, but it's the only way to keep everyone alive. So in this timeline, Obanai and Mitsuri live and continue their love story. Shinobu survives, and her sister can rest proudly in heaven, knowing she lived a full life. She and Giyu finally get the love story fans always wanted to see. Tanjiro and Kanao become a couple. Zenitsu and Nezuko also end up together. Inosuke and Aoi Kanzaki, that's her name, finally get their moment as well. Muichiro lives past 14. His bloodline continues, and so does Shinobu's bloodline, which would have ended in the original timeline. All the Hashira, Sanemi, Obanai, Shinobu, Tengen, Giyu, Gyomei, Rengoku, Mitsuri, and Muichiro survive this version of the story. And that's the happiest ending I could come up with for Demon Slayer, without making massive changes that break the story completely. I hope you guys enjoyed this What If. Let me know. What if a different Hashira went to the Swordsmith Village arc in Demon Slayer? Go check out my posts and make sure to vote, because that's mainly where I get my next video ideas from. You guys pick this one. What if a different Hashira went to the Swordsmith Village arc? So let's get right into it. So this video isn't my usual full retelling of the story, starting with Tanjiro's family and going all the way to Muzan's defeat in the final arc. This time, we're going to explore a bunch of different timelines, and I'll explain each of them. The whole point of this channel is to make these Demon Slayer what-ifs as accurate as possible, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. In this scenario, I'll be setting up at least 2 or 3 different matchups with different Hashira. We already know that Mitsuri Kanroji and Muichiro Tokito won't be in the arc anymore since we're swapping them out, but I am keeping Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya in the story. So honestly, I kind of want to set up an overpowered duo for this what if. I'm going with the 2 Hashira who fought Upper Moon 1, Gyomei Himejima, the Stone Hashira, and Sanemi Shinazugawa, the Wind Hashira. Now, let's make something up here. Say Gyomei needs a new flail and axe swords because his old ones broke, and Sanemi either chipped or broke his sword while training. That would give both of them a reason to head over to the Swordsmith Village arc. So let's keep this one quick. We see Gyome at the hot spring, but let's skip past that. The real story picks up when Tanjiro is fixing Nezuko's hair. That's when Sanemi walks into the room and wakes him up, probably pinching his nose or hitting him, kind of like how Muichiro did in the original timeline. Sanemi then asks if Tanjiro has seen a certain swordsmith, just like in the manga. Tanjiro says no, and that's when Upper Moon 4, Hantengu, shows up. But here's where it changes. This time, Sanemi reacts faster than Muichiro did originally, and the fight starts right away. Unlike Muichiro, Sanemi doesn't get blasted away at the beginning. He's simply on a different level. Muichiro was already crazy strong for being only 14, but Sanemi is older, more experienced, and far more aggressive. So now, instead of Muichiro being separated, we've got Sanemi staying in the fight alongside Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya against Upper Moon 4. And since we swapped out Mitsuri for Gyome, that means Gyome fills Mitsuri's role in this arc. Just like Mitsuri did in the original story, Gyome is the one who arrives later, returning to the village to join the battle. So let's talk a little more about Gyome. Once he gets back to the village, he basically takes over Mitsuri's role from the original story. He protects the chief of the village and wipes out all the underlings of Upper Moon 5, Gyoko. But here's where things change. Since Gyome already knows Sanemi is helping Tanjiro's group, he goes directly to face Gyoko himself. Now, let's set that battle aside and go back to the fight with Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. This time, it's Sanemi, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya all fighting together. In the original timeline, Mitsuri came in to support Tanjiro, Genya, and Nezuko, but in this version, that role is gone, so it's up to Sanemi to fill that spot instead. The Upper Moon 5 fight is honestly the easiest one for Gyome. In the original story, Mitsuri unlocked her Demon Slayer mark during this battle, but we can't have that here, because as Kokushibo himself said, once a Hashira awakens their mark, they're almost guaranteed to die within a short time. So in this timeline, we'll keep Gyome from unlocking it, but even without the mark, I have full confidence Gyome could defeat Gyoko with ease. He'd protect everyone in the village better, take less damage overall, and wouldn't need a sudden power-up in the middle of the fight. When the time comes for Tanjiro to land the finishing blow on Gyoko, Gyome is the one who throws him the final sword. He stands by, making sure Tanjiro can do it safely, and watches as the demon is finally slain. So in this version, the Upper Moon 5 battle goes smoothly. Gyome comes out stronger, healthier, and still ready for the fights ahead. That about wraps up this timeline, but I think we've got time to fit in one more. So let's dive right into the next one. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and for the last scenario in this video, I want to pair up Giyu and Shinobu. The reason I'm picking them is because they went to the Mount Natagumo arc together, and they've always had a little bit of chemistry. I thought it'd be interesting to explore that more, almost like a love story element in this What If. So here's how we'll do it. In this timeline, Shinobu takes Mitsuri's role, and Giyu fills in as Muichiro replacement. With that setup, let's get right into it. So now, let's run through all the dialogue and events in this version. Since Giyu is taking Muichiro's role here, he goes into Tanjiro's room and asks if he's seen the swordsmith, the one who forges Nichiren blades. Of course, Tanjiro says no. While they're talking, Upper Moon 4, Hantengu, appears. Giyu reacts immediately and slices off his head, but just like in the original story, the demon splits into multiple bodies. Unlike Muichiro though, Giyu doesn't get blasted away. He's much stronger, and since he even created his own 11th form, Dead Calm, he's considered the third strongest Hashira overall. So in this timeline, he holds his ground with ease. Now, he wouldn't be quite as reckless or aggressive as Sanemi, who would normally charge headfirst into all of the clones. But Giyu is still a huge help, calmly holding back all 4 emotion clones, while Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya focus on tracking down the main body. Meanwhile, Shinobu is on her way back to the village, filling Mitsuri's role in this version. That means she's the one who ends up facing Upper Moon 5, Gyoko. Back to the Upper Moon 4 fight. Things play out mostly the same as the original timeline. Giyu doesn't need as much backup though, since he can handle the 4 clones with his water breathing techniques. This frees up the others to finish off the main body much quicker. Tanjiro eventually lands the finishing blow with Nezuko and Genya's help, bringing the battle to an end. The big change is with Upper Moon 5. Shinobu isn't known for raw power, but in this fight, her speed and poison actually make her a dangerous match for Gyoko. He's fast too, but Shinobu can dodge his water prison techniques and avoid getting trapped. She'd need to bring a massive amount of poison with her to break through his regeneration, but with enough precision, I think she could win. In this timeline, Shinobu even awakens her Demon Slayer mark during the fight. She may be considered the physically weakest Hashira, but with her intelligence, poison mastery, and now the mark boosting her abilities, she manages to overwhelm Gyoko. Finally, just like in the original story, she throws Tanjiro the finishing sword, and he cuts off Hantengu's main body's head. That ends the battle completely, and wraps up this what-if scenario. And this time, since Shinobu has the Demon Slayer mark, she would definitely last longer in the Infinity Castle. But even with that power-up, I still think she'd eventually perish at the hands of Doma. Overall though, I think this makes for a really solid what-if scenario. If you guys have any other Demon Slayer what-if ideas, drop them down in the comments. I'm always looking for new suggestions, so if you've got a really good one, let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you'd like me to make more different what-ifs like this one.